Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the opening drive on 101 ESPN in St. Louis. I cut it off early there. I didn't want to go 60 seconds and waste time on our show. It's 7 o'clock.
Oh, you can go as long as you want.
Oh, I'll do that sometime. 7 o'clock time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Danny Mac, Matthew Rocchio, Randy Karraker, a Friday edition of the opening drive here on 101 ESPN. Good morning, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself? It's the weekend. Terrific. It's here.
Yeah, the Cardinals getting ready for a series in Chicago. Always fun. I'm sure there will be a lot of Cardinal fans up at Wrigley Field this afternoon for the 120. To me, the Friday afternoon summer games at Wrigley are the best.
Those are the best. Saturday's not bad, but Friday, it's starting your weekend off early. You make the trip, maybe take the train on a Thursday. You know, you get there early, have a dinner on Thursday, and then get ready to have fun in Wrigleyville. It's a party. The game is almost secondary for some. It's a party when you go to Wrigley, and it makes it a lot of fun to watch baseball. I absolutely love it, and the weather usually is perfect, it seems like, when the Cardinals are there, so it should be a great weekend of baseball. And it's always crazy, Randy. Something weird is going to happen this weekend. It's just, that's what happens at Wrigley with the Cubs and the Cardinals.
Danny, we got a text right off the bat before we even got into the studio. It's Flag Day. Do you know what the Cardinals are? And I texted back. I said, I have no idea.
They're either last place or first place, and it takes 24 hours.
That's right. Yeah, no idea.
Or second place, I should say.
Right.
And they're in second place, I think, by a half game starting today.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And that's the thing. Flag Day has always been for Claves. For me, it was always Memorial Day.
Me too.
And it's changed dramatically. For me, people talk about the 2011 Cardinals. The 07 Rockies were the team that changed things for me when they had that, they win, like 22 out of 23 or something like that. And they were a terrible team, and all of a sudden they became great.
Yeah.
And now, because of where the trade deadline is, when the trade deadline is, and everybody's pretty much the same, we mentioned yesterday that there's 4 really good teams and then everybody else. I don't think anybody has an idea of what their personality of their team is.
I think it matters with health, too, getting guys back. And the Cardinals will have Mats going on Sunday, not Major League games. This is rehab assignments. O'Brien Saturday, tonight Gallegos, Robertson tonight. And I think if we've seen anything, they need to address pitching. And I know they've talked about a center fielder that hits from the right side. But if you can get these guys healthy, it does change a little bit the complexion of your team.
The Cardinals are a team that, as you just mentioned, with Mats, the question marks about him, and the mercurial nature of their starting rotation, you don't know what you're going to get. That's why Memorial Day was big for me, because when the Cardinals were really good under Herzog and La Russa, by 2 months into the season, that's when your starting pitching would kick in, and you could count on 7 innings every night when you had a good team.
And thinking about yesterday, well, go ahead. What were you going to say?
You just don't. Nobody has that now. Nobody has that sort of definition to their starting rotation where you can say, okay, guys kicked in, and we've got 3 guys that are going to go 7, so we know what we are. I think the fact that we've become a sport now of 5 1/3 being acceptable, I think that's taken away definition from what a team is and what a team's personality is.
And that's where I was going. 4 2/3 by the bullpen had to be covered yesterday as Lance Lynn, it seemed like he was cruising along, then gets to the 5th and runs into problems, couple of walks. He had what would have been a double play, hit him, and all of a sudden he'd be out of the inning, and maybe we're talking about a different game. But you had 4 2/3 yesterday covered by the bullpen, and they did a hell of a job. Only 4 base runners, 3 hits, 1 walk. Kittredge gets his first save. Rycroft gets his first win. But to your point, the days of like the 2004 Cardinals where they're rolling a guy out every 5th day, it was stability in that rotation. You just don't have it. I mean, you've got to have a roster literally of 35 players.
You do.
35. I mean, you're going to go down to your minor leagues at some point and grab somebody. Pitching, position player, I don't care. But you're getting somebody from 35 man.
If we ever wonder why the Dodgers are great every year, that's one thing Andrew Friedman figured out, is he needs a 35-man roster, and they need to be able to pull somebody up from the minor leagues, and they coach the daylights out of them. They've got like 65 different coaches throughout their organization, so that makes a difference too. But they have talented players that they can bring up. As we've mentioned before, they have a major league pitching staff, not just a rotation. They've got a major league pitching staff on the IL.
The 618 says the old school method would have left Lynn in for 2 more innings, and they probably don't win. I happen to agree with that. I kind of felt like he was running out of gas, and he was trying to throw a little bit of a cutter, and it was spinning. It just didn't look like it had that sharp break. And I thought it was the right move to pull him when they did. But because of that, we talk about this a lot, Randy. The bullpen is getting used a ton.
Yeah.
How much can this hold up?
Here's the one reason I don't like it. Because he did what he wanted to do on his last pitch. He wanted to get a ground ball, and he got the ground ball. And I would hate as a pitcher if, okay, I did my job. Now, granted, it hit me. There's nothing you can do about that. But I got what I wanted in that situation. I hate for a pitcher to be taken out after he accomplishes essentially what he wants to accomplish. Same thing as being taken out after an error is committed.
It's like when a bullpen guy comes in. I never understood this. And the first thing they're asked to do is intentionally walk somebody.
Yeah.
You're starting with a negative instead of starting with a positive. Leave the starter in or the previous pitcher in to walk that guy intentionally, then pull him.
Right.
It drives me crazy when I see that.
Yeah, and if you're getting pulled, you deserve to walk somebody. And by the way, now it doesn't matter, right?
No.
Because you just put the four fingers up. But for me, the guy who is going to pitch more innings should be credited or blamed for the walk rather than the relief pitcher.
I think the other thing, too, is that with Lynn, I guess you're just saying it's 5 innings. And when he gets on the ropes, you pull him as quickly as you can. I don't necessarily like it. I liked it yesterday. I thought he needed to come out of the game. Yeah. And that's where you and I differ. I just felt like, you know what? This could get out of hand really quickly because they were getting better looks at him, too. So I just felt like, you know what? This is the move. If you're going to use your bullet here, might as well do it with the bases jammed at that point and pull him. I just thought it was the right move.
Meanwhile, Goldie hit a home run, and that was a classic Goldie home run, and then Donnie Baseball with the game winner. And Donnie Baseball, Brendan Donovan, has a swing. I wonder if he could be a 15 to 20 homer guy, because when he hits it, it really goes. And he's shown the ability to hit for pop in the past. Not that you need it from him, but it sure would be nice.
Yeah, it would be nice. I like to see him spray the ball. And it was kind of funny. Remember what they did with Carpenter that year that he had all the doubles and looked like he was spraying the ball to each gap to gap. And then they say, well, we need more home runs. Okay, he goes out and hits 37. I just think that he could be, though, talking about Brendan Donovan, 10 to 15, and maybe as he goes along in his career, 15 to 20. It's just kind of the progression of a player. You see that as they get used to the league, used to what they're asked to do, and that's something you have to look at.
And as Dan mentioned, the Cardinals are in second place in the division.
It's incredible.
Sure, they're 6.5 behind Milwaukee, but 7 behind are the Reds, 7.5 behind are the Cubs, and 8 now back of the front-running Brewers are the Pittsburgh Pirates.
And you're going to see lefties this weekend. The Cardinals have not been great against lefties. 237 the average, but only a 680 OPS. They're going to get Jordan Wicks today, Shota Imanaga on Saturday, so our first time to look at him against St. Louis, and then Jamison Tyone, who's been very good. So you're getting those 3 coming up, the lefties coming up against the St. Louis Cardinals at Wrigley Field starting today.
And I know that they haven't shown it as much as members of the Cardinals, but historically, Goldie and Arenado have just killed at Wrigley Field.
They love it. I remember when they acquired both, one of the things that you and I talked about, we were texting back and forth. We said, wow, these are huge deals for the club, but think about playing inside the division, playing 9 games potentially at Wrigley, and these guys do enormous damage at that ballpark. You talked about a classic Goldie home run. When he starts hitting the ball to right center, that's what I look at. If he starts driving it to right center, usually that means he's staying on the ball, letting it get deep, and then does some damage. The other thing I want to talk about, Randy, is Mason Wynn. Looking at his last 26 games, 11 extra base hits, hitting .350 with 17 runs batted in. At some point, you got to talk about him being a Rookie of the Year.
Yep.
He's got to be in that conversation.
And as great as shortstop play is in the league, I think you also have to think about him as an all-star, right?
Absolutely.
Next month, because he's playing as well as anybody is right now. And granted, the errors are there, but the reason that the new rules were put in place were to show off athleticism, whether it's on defense or at the plate and on the bases. Mason Wynn is the essence of what Theo Epstein was looking for when he said, we want to bring athleticism back to the game.
How about his triple yesterday?
Yeah.
Flying around the bases.
He can run.
Yes, he can. We're getting a text about where is Brooke Grimsley. She's on her honeymoon.
Yeah.
So we didn't mention that. It's just
Sorry
you and
about
I
that.
this week, and I think Brooke will return on Wednesday.
Yep, from Croatia.
Yeah, that's right. So she'll be back with us next week.
Yep. Goldie career at Wrigley, 293, 395 on base, 492 slug, 886 OPS, 12 homers, 13 doubles, 42 runs batted in 289 career plate appearances at Wrigley.
I like that.
Goldie's been pretty good. Arenado's been pretty good there. And hopefully the Cardinals will get a good start out of Kyle Gibson today. He likes pitching at Wrigley, and he'll go, as Danny mentioned, against Jordan Wicks. Stanley Cup Finals Game 3 last night. Florida holds off Edmonton 4-3, a 4-1 lead for the Panthers in the third. Edmonton came back, scored a couple, had 2 minutes with the empty net, and couldn't get one past Sergei Bobrovsky. And now Matthew Tkachuk and the Panthers are within a game of winning their first Stanley Cup.
Bobrovsky was awesome in the first two periods. It was 1-1 in the second, and then he made those back-to-back saves on Draisaitl and McDavid. Then all of a sudden, they go the other way, and they score. A few things I took from this game. The Panthers have so much depth, Randy. The first three goals were scored by members of the first, the second, and the third lines, and they kept McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman quiet in that game. And then they went with Edmonton did with lineup changes, and it didn't work for the Oilers. Draisaitl had 2 new wingers. That did not work. If a team is up 3-0 in the Stanley Cup Finals, they're 27-1. And when you look at that, it's over. I mean, it's got to be over. The Celtics series is over. This series is over. And then we'll be talking about even more baseball. That'll be front and center, I think. And also City soccer. We're going to have Bradley Carnell on today. So we'll be talking City, and we'll be talking a lot of baseball.
And we'll talk a little bit of football as Russ Brandon, the president and CEO of the UFL, and Moose Johnston, Cowboys Super Bowl champ and the VP of football administration in the UFL. Those two will join us in studio coming up at 8:45, getting ready for the UFL Championship game here in St. Louis on Sunday.
Honest question for you guys, and I don't mean this to be so negative, but how many people do you think show up this Sunday?
I would say that if the over-under were 13.5, I would bet the under slightly.
I think the 13.5, I think that's really high for an over-under. I don't know if you get 10.
I hope so. I hope you do. Hopefully you get a lot of people traveling in from San Antonio and Birmingham.
Yeah. It'll be maybe 5.
And I wonder if the UFL will bring corporate partners in, things like that. So we'll see.
Yeah.
The U.S. Open, of course, is Father's Day weekend, so the U.S. Open is underway at Pinehurst in North Carolina. Rory McIlroy and Patrick Cantlay are the leaders at 5 under par. Rory's already on the course today. He's even after one hole played. Bryson DeChambeau is at -3. Man, he always plays well in the majors, doesn't he?
And he doesn't do anything with LIV. I think he's got 1 win or maybe no wins with LIV. But these guys, Koepka, another one. Koepka had a lead for a while. When these guys get the majors going, the juices get flowing. And the U.S. Open is about carnage. I don't know how these guys. I was with Jay Delsing yesterday. I said, do you think I'd shoot 200? He said, yeah, I did shoot 200. He said, there's no chance at 100. I said, there is no way. I said, I would take a 10 on every hole.
Here's what you need to do.
I'm being dead serious.
And the greens would kill you. You know what the play for people like us would probably be? Is just to go 5-iron, 5-iron, 5-iron to get on the green and try to putt. Rather than try to hit the driver and risk being in that rough. And I would be in the rough even with my 5-iron at times, but I have a better chance of not being in it. But if I get into that rough, there's no doubt I've got a 10.
I just figure I 3-putt everything.
Yeah.
If I don't 5-putt, I'd be happy.
Happy with a 3-putt.
It's incredible how they're rolling right now on those greens.
So, yeah, you have a 450-yard par 4, 5-iron, 5-iron, 6-iron, 7-iron, for me, whatever. And then, I would never hit driver, even though the course is so long and so prohibitive. If I was playing smart, now that's a real qualifier because I'm not a smart golfer. But if I were playing smart, that's what I would do.
I want to ask Jay if they've made it too tough. Now, there's certain guys that say, like Scheffler came out and said, I love it. I love the fact that you have to use every shot in your bag, and it's very tough, and it's as challenging as it gets. I wonder, though, if it's just too tough.
They want the PGA, they want the winner to finish at even par. They want to punish the best golfers in the world. So from that perspective, from the perspective of the U.S. Open people, they're fine, I think, with with this thing, punishing pro golfers.
I think the cut will probably be like +5.
And Tiger's plus 4.
Yep.
Tiger's probably not going to make the cut.
I don't think so. But they're going to give him, I think this is cool. They may give, I don't know if you saw this, for elevated events, they may give him a lifetime invitation to any of the events. And I think that's the right thing to do.
That's not a bad play. And by the way,
who are you watching on TV? If he's up there, I stop and watch.
Yeah, right.
I just want to see him hit the ball.
That's what I'm thinking of. Give him a special dispensation with a cart.
Well, that'd be the Champions Tour, and he would destroy everybody on the Champions Tour.
He would.
You get a card on that.
Yep. Coming up here on 101 ESPN, yesterday, the Blues announced that Alexander Steen is going to become their next general manager. Doug Armstrong will step aside and just be the POHO. In a couple of years, we'll give you our reaction to that next on 101 ESPN.
He actually does bleed blue, and to have that in our organization, the players feed off it. They fed off it when he played. They fed off it when he came back to training camp last year. They fed off it when he traveled with the team. They know that it's not just a job. It's a passion, and St. Louis is a passion. I'm not sure he signs up for it. I'm not sure his wife signs up for it if this is any one of the other 31 teams. He's a Blue, and he wants to be a Blue. And when you start with that passion, that's the part. And then his hockey knowledge is it's second to none. I go back to that's going to be the easy part.
That's Blues Poho and general manager for the moment, Doug Armstrong, yesterday at the announcement that after 2 more years at the helm as general manager, Doug Armstrong will step aside and Alexander Steen will become the Blues general manager. Danny Mac, Randy Karraker with you on 101 ESPN. And Dan, a lot of people wondered yesterday on social media why the Blues would do this now and why they would go with Alexander Steen right now, even though he doesn't have any experience. And the reason's very clear. Number one, Doug Armstrong is comfortable with him. More importantly, Tom Stillman is comfortable with and confident in Alexander Steen. And this is a guy that knows the organization who will be groomed to be a general manager in the same vein, although with a different approach, obviously, as Doug Armstrong. But as the press conference started yesterday, Tom Stillman said, I have the best general manager in the game, and I want to keep him as long as I can. And they believe that Alexander Steen can have a similar level of success for a long time.
You said groomed. That's the important part with this. I don't think you could just throw him into this thing and say, go get him. Now, you got to get it. At some point, you got to start, right? You got to have a job, and you got to have a GM title somewhere. But I think if you just threw him into this, there is no way that he'd be able to handle all the different aspects of what a GM has to do. The tentacles of this job are so many of the tentacles that fans never see, of the things that you do behind the scenes. The other part, and I mentioned this yesterday, he's not far removed from the game. So relationships with players is something that matters. You need to have relationships with players to be able to go in the locker room, to take them out to coffee, to find. Now, you got to be careful. Here's where you got to be careful. You can't be too close.
No doubt.
Can't be too close to guys. This is cutthroat,
guys. You have to, right?
Yeah, this is cutthroat, man.
People, yeah.
That's what makes it kind of tough. I just felt like when I was listening to this, here's a question for you. How much can Doug step away, after 2 years and have that inside of him to say, okay, I'm going to let him make some of these decisions. I don't know if that's the right decision, but I'm going to let him make his own bed, so to speak.
He was on yesterday with BK and Ferrario, and he said the best thing will be when he can be in the room by himself, and he makes the decision. And I really do think that Army wants to handle this differently than the Cardinals have handled their situation with Mozeliak and Gersh. I don't think Army wants to interfere with Alexander Steen or be the guy in charge that's making the decision.
I'll be curious to see, too, how many of these guys, the former players and the Hall of Famers, stick around. I think that is very important to have a sounding board of players and just say, hey, what do you think? I mean, we talk about the show all the time. We say, well, what do you think? What do we need to do? Is there something wrong? Is there something good? Should we emphasize this? Where's our deficiencies? But I was thinking about all the tentacles of this. He's going to have to run the minor league system or at least oversee it with a big hand in that. Also your scouting department and then your everyday club. I mean, there is a lot that goes into this job. So it's perfect to be, and I think you used the right word, to be groomed into the position and have a full understanding of what you're getting yourself into in 2 years.
A lot of times when you do the job as long as Doug Armstrong has, you have a tendency to just be so myopic that you lose self-awareness. And this is a really interesting comment from Army about stepping away and why he stepped away.
At some point, change is good. Change is good, I think, when Tom and I talked about it. It's not just for the players, it's for the business side, it's for everybody. They've got in one rhythm with one manager for a number of years, and as I said, I love to manage. I'm going to miss it. I guarantee I'm going to miss it. I love the work. But I love the Blues more, and it's my responsibility to do what's best for the Blues, and what's best for the Blues is to support Alex in 2 years. But that's 24 months. I got a hell of a lot of work in the 24 months I'm going to accomplish.
What an interesting comment.
Takes some guts to say that.
Yeah, I love managing, but I love the Blues more.
When I hear that, I'm thinking, man, you talk about a guy that's got the right idea or the right vision for the club, because I do think you can get too single-minded about what you see, and maybe at times there's a deaf ear towards what others are saying or what they're seeing. And so that's important to have different eyeballs on what you're watching. And some of it is getting confirmation of what you're seeing, and some of it is other guys stepping up and being comfortable enough to say, hey, Doug, or in this case, hey, Alex, you're missing this, man.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You've got to be able to do this. And if you can't do this, I don't agree with it. Ultimately, you have the final say, but you need to be thinking about this before you move forward.
Now, a lot of reasonable questions. Peter Chiarelli, Vice President of Hockey Operations. Bill Armstrong, General Manager in Utah. Why not go steal him in 2 years? He's been with the Blues. He knows the organization inside and out. So, Doug Armstrong, why drop the GM title in 2 years for Alexander Steen and make him the GM rather than somebody else?
You know, in 2 years, it'll be 16 years. A generation of players, a generation, maybe 2 generations of fans have known nothing different. And, you know, at some point, change is good. Change is good, I think. When Tom and I talked about it, it's not just for the players, it's for the business side, it's for everybody. They've got in one rhythm with one manager.
And so Alexander Steen will get it in 2 years. The big thing, Danny, is the comfort level, right? Tom Stillman, Doug Armstrong, if they weren't comfortable and confident that Alexander Steen could do the job, and I have faith in those guys, they wouldn't have desired to promote him as their general manager. They could have waited it out and waited for somebody else, but they identified him as the guy that they wanted to be the general manager of the club moving forward. And none of us are able to answer that question like there. Would Chris Pronger have taken this job? Absolutely. Would Brett Hull have taken this job? Absolutely. There are myriad former Blues that have desired to be in player personnel. Kelly Chase always wanted to be on the hockey side, but the Blues have decided that this is their guy.
By the way, I got to correct you on one. Chris Pronger. Well, I'm having fun with you.
But he would have taken
a few years ago, definitely.
He would have taken that. He wanted that assistant GM job.
Yeah, he said to me one time, not that long ago, I said, how come you're still not in hockey operations? He said, I want nothing to do with hockey anymore. He said, I just want to watch and be a fan. I think that's a humble approach, by the way, that Army is gone about with this. And Alex Steen must have been vocal enough in meetings to get the attention of others in that room and to say, wow, this guy's got an eye for this, he's got a feel for this, and this is something we need to take a look at and nurture this along the way.
It was pretty interesting yesterday on BK and Ferrario. Army said that normally you see players in the hotel lobby and you talk about their families and how things are going, and sometimes you talk hockey. He said with Steiner, about halfway through his career as a Blue, they would start talk about families, and then he said we get to hockey really quick and talk hockey. So he knows the depth of knowledge, and we know as media members the depth of knowledge that Alexander Steen has about the sport, not just him playing, but him being able to identify good players on other teams. And by the way, David Perron talked about this, and it's Army referenced it, but it's essentially the same thing. David Perron said when Steiner left, he was the guy that took care of everybody. Okay, you need something in St. Louis? Here's where you go. You need a mover to go to another city. You need a place to live. Young players moving in with him, or here's how you go about the business. And Army talked about, like there, walking through, going to marketing, going to PR, going to sales, going to the financial people, and knowing everybody in the organization. Steiner already is that guy.
I wonder when Doug knew as a player, when Steen was a player, that he could target him as a front office guy. Not necessarily the general manager, but a guy that has a role with the club. And I wonder when he was a player, if it was when he was a player and he said, that's a guy I think we should put in our front office. There are those that know. Yeah. There are president of baseball operations, or in this case, hockey operations, that can pinpoint a guy and say, when he's done, we need him a part of this organization.
My guess would be, and he said the midpoint of his playing career, there were a couple of years where Alexander Steen was the Blues' best player. Yeah. There was no doubt about it. But when he was able to subjugate his ego and not be the Blues' best player anymore, but still be a really good player and never complain about it, I'll bet that was part of it.
How about the cherry on top, moving to the fourth line in 2019?
Yeah. Monstrous.
Yep. And that's when he's saying this guy bleeds blue.
Yeah. He is going to be an interesting choice. And, hey, Doug Armstrong is one of the best general managers in the history of the game. So those are high standards that Alexander Steen has to live up to. But Alexander Steen is a very bright hockey person. I think he'll be a really good fit. He would get testy with us in the media at times, by the way. So that'll be kind of interesting, too, to see how he approaches the media side of things. Not that it doesn't matter, but it'll be interesting for us to deal with. Not that he's great. He's great to deal with, and he says what he thinks, and he says a lot of good stuff. But if you ask a stupid question, he'll recognize the stupid question. And it's... as the old saying goes, there are no stupid questions, just stupid people that ask them. And he lives by that credo.
I'm one of them. Sometimes I say, why did I ask that question? What the hell am I doing? By the way, very quickly, did you think he had a little edge in his press conference, too?
Oh, yeah.
I thought that immediately. I thought, interesting.
Yeah.
Big day for him, but he's got a little edge in this press conference, too.
And he will. And it'll be interesting to see again as his career unfolds, because nobody plays the game of being a GM with other GMs better than Army does.
Yeah.
And I wonder if Steiner will be similar to that. He's going to learn for a couple of years how to massage those egos. Every other general manager in hockey loves Doug Armstrong, and he's a mentor to a lot of young GMs. I don't know if JR did the piece, maybe it was Pierre LeBrun at The Athletic during the season about how Doug Armstrong is such a mentor for so many young general managers in hockey, and now Alexander Steen as the best guy.
I think one of the biggest things that I have is, can Doug bite his tongue? In 2 years, can he bite his tongue and say, don't do that, I'm telling you, this is something you shouldn't do.
But if Steiner asks for the advice, at least he knows he's going to get an honest answer.
Absolutely, and that's all you're asking for.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's Dan, I'm Randy. Coming up, we're going to talk some golf with our buddy Jay Delsing next on 101 ESPN.
Hey everyone, it's Brooke here, and I want to tell you why I love the Missouri Athletic Club. It's because it really feels like I have joined a community. It's so much fun going over to the West location. I work out with Christine twice a week. She's my personal trainer, and I'm already seeing huge results physically. I also go over there and play tennis with Scott. It's been so much fun just getting back into the sport that I played my entire life, and right now it's also pool season, and that is the place to be this summer over at the West location. It is so much fun. They always provide a wonderful experience, and that's why I love my MAC.
Mortgage rates have finally dropped. Call today for a free mortgage checkup. Pay off those credit cards. Call 314-567-GOLD. That's 314-567-GOLD.
Golden old landing, cured my blues.
NMLS 114937.
From the opening Drive, the Balloon Party, BK and Ferrario, to the Fast Lane and more. If you missed anything on 101 ESPN today, get caught up with all the shows and 101 podcasts at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 mobile app.
Driven by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. By just a little bit, by Brendan Donovan's home run in the 6th inning, the Cardinals win their series over the Pirates 4-3. They will start another series, a 3-game series in Chicago this afternoon. 1:20 first pitch. It'll be Kyle Gibson facing off against the lefty for the Cubs, Jordan Wicks. Wicks on the season 1-2 with a 4.64 ERA. Last night in the Stanley Cup Final Game 3, the Florida Panthers got a little scare put in them in the third period, but don't worry, they legged it out for a 4-3 win over the Oilers. They lead that series 3-0, and they will go for the sweep on Saturday night. You can catch that game right here on 101 ESPN. Pregame starts at 6:30. Speaking of a St. Louis kid going for a sweep, you can check 101 ESPN tonight as it is Mavericks-Celtics Game 4 from Dallas. Pregame starts at 6:30 right here on 101 ESPN. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
A 1, 2, 3, 4.
U.S. Open, Rory McIlroy bogeyed to number 2, and so he is -4 for the tournament, and Patrick Cantley holds the lead by himself. He tees off this afternoon at 12:25 St. Louis time. Danny Mac, Randy Karraker, and Dan and Jay Delsing bring you golf with Jay Delsing every Sunday morning here on 101 ESPN, and Jay is with us on the celebrity line right now. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Doing great. It's U.S. Open Friday, man. It's hard to watch this and not get your juices flowing. It's really super cool.
Before we get to the U.S. Open, how was the fishing?
Oh man, it was freezing cold in Canada, but we caught a lot of fish. It was really great. I stayed up. I was there for 6 days, and I have a buddy that's up there for a few more. So it was a perfect amount of time for me. Get away from the phone. I couldn't believe how much I text and how much emailing and things I do, because I put my phone in the corner of the cabin and I don't think it moved for, 3 or 4 days. And as soon as I get down to the Minneapolis airport, I'm like, I think I've sent, 45 texts in a minute. It's insane.
So were you, I don't think there's a better eating fish than the walleye. Were you fishing for walleye and northern pike up there?
We did. We caught I caught a really big walleye, and we had a shore lunch where we, clean it and cook it right on the shore of the water there. It was really good. I agree with you. The walleye it's fantastic. We caught a bunch at northern, but they're a little tougher to eat, tougher to clean, a lot of bones and things like that. So we just throw them back. We're lazy.
Well, this Sunday, Jay, we've got 2-time U.S. Open champion Curtis Strange on the show, and he talks about what it means to him to win not the Masters.
And that's
not the Masters, not the PGA Championship, the British Open, but what it meant for him to win the U.S. Open.
It's special because it's our national championship, and that's first and foremost. It's the biggest tournament that I or Jay could win. I think any of these elevated events with the top 50 players in the world would be pretty special. Because you are beating the best in the world. And whenever you win a tournament and it's a good field, there's a little bit on the play ride home. There's a little bit of extra satisfaction there.
Jay, I'm curious. As a guy that played on the PGA Tour for over 30 years, the U.S. Open, is that the one that an American says more than anybody, this is the one I want to win?
Yeah, definitely, Danny. I mean, I can tell you as a really bad-dressed young North County kid, I was putting for a lot of U.S. Open titles on the putting green at North Shore Country Club. That's a really bad soybean field now up in North County, and it really wasn't anything else. It was always the U.S. Open. And I think the Masters in the last, I'd say 15 or 20 years has really gone up in stature, and a lot of golfers would say they want to, win that championship. But for me, it was always the U.S. Open, and It'd be interesting to talk to someone like Rory to wonder if they wanted to win, the Open Championship, being a European guy. But for me, it was always the U.S. Open. And as an amateur, Danny, it was the U.S. Am. I mean, that was a really big deal, too, because you're wondering, hell, am I going to be able to make the tour? What's this going to look like? But I got to play in 3 U.S. amateurs and had a couple chances to win that, and it just gets you jacked up like nothing else.
Has the USGA made this too tough, Jay? We were talking about that in the first segment. Have they made this just too ridiculously tough?
Dan, it's a matter of opinion, and it's a great topic of conversation. It is super hard. It stresses every single part of your game. When my dad was alive, he was really, really old school, and he'd say, son, don't even go try to qualify for that. They're trying to show you up, and that was something in baseball. If you showed the umpire up, he ran you right away, so that was a big deal to my dad. And I said, Dad, it's our national championship. I'm going to try to play every single time I can. And he's like, whatever, because he goes, who wants to watch you guys, finish the tournament 23 over par? And that's what's going to happen on the weekend, guys. Once the cut's going to probably be 4, 5, 6 over, something like that. And there'll be certain people that, the scores will just get run up on the weekend. And what's interesting about Pinehurst, the greens are insane. My buddy Steve Payton went to college once said they're like German football helmets, German Army helmets, but they're harder to hit. And what's crazy about it is that you can seriously putt balls off of the greens, and they wind up getting them so fast, and they start turning a little brown because they're almost dead, and it's almost like the ball just skids across, some of the greens and the reeds. It stresses every part of your game. I watched Rory bogey number 11, his second hole out of the gate, and he missed a 4-foot putt that, if it's not the U.S. Open, he's probably not missing it. It's tough.
Jay and Danny, I want you to weigh in here. I've reached a point now with Scheffler. He finished +1 yesterday, but I'm just assuming that Scheffler is at some point this weekend going to be in the hunt. Have you reached that point with him that he's just going to get hot and he's going to be in the mix and we're going to be seeing his name on the leaderboard at some point during the weekend?
Oh, 100%, Randy. He's no one. I think he's the first golfer in the history of the tour to win 5 championships before the U.S. Open. Think about that company. And he's just this guy that, he gets his funky haircut because it's free in the locker room. I'm sure he tipped the barber nicely, but the barber got a little aggressive on the side and in the back. And so, we golfers get these really wacky tan lines because you're out in the sun so much. And, they're looking for anything to talk about with Scotty, and he doesn't give anybody any fodder, really. They're looking for whatever. He just lets his game do the talking, and he's just dominant right now. Love it.
So when you're watching, for the average fan out there, golf fan out there, you're watching what these guys are doing on Pinehurst number 2. You have played it, Jay. What should we be watching as we see this thing unfold this weekend?
Danny, I don't think you'll ever see a bigger variety of shot and club choices around the greens than this week. You're going to see guys putting the ball from off the green. You're going to see guys using hybrids, 3-woods, sand wedges. It goes up and down the bag because the U.S. That's probably the brilliance of what Donald Ross did down at Pinehurst, is that he's giving you so many options that for we golfers it almost gets confusing, and then there's lack of decision and some commitment, because you're really not sure how to play this thing. Martin Keimer destroyed the field last time the U.S. Open was at Pinehurst. He won by 8 shots, and he putted the ball around the surrounds of the green beautifully, better than anybody else, clearly. But this year, the USGA changed the heights of some of the grass around there, so the ball cannot be putted all the time because the grass is too thick. And so the USGA is plugged into all these crazy golf things that we're plugged into to make it hard from every aspect. Some of the crazy stuff just, 1 or 2 feet off the fairways is insane. It's this wiry sort of grass that they're calling it stuff, and it's just going to make it it's just going to make it brutal. So there'll be blood out there somewhere along the line, and it'll be interesting to see who winds up on top. But patience is the big. Your ball's going to take terrible bounces, and it's going to go in places that are going to be almost impossible to get out of. It's the guy that can deal with those and roll with the punches better than anybody else that's going to win. And he's got to really putt well.
Jay, we've got about a minute left. They're honoring Payne Stewart 25 years after his tragic passing. What comes to mind when you think of Payne Stewart?
Oh, my gosh, I can remember being in the locker room at the Walt Disney Championship. It was a big deal for my family every year because the girls love the mouse. And it was our last tournament of the year. And I had Payne sign a couple of gloves for me for a charitable thing that I was doing here in St. Louis. And he got on a plane about an hour later and, died in that tragic plane accident. And so what really stuck out in my mind was the outpouring of love and support from the fellow PGA Tour players. I turned around, went back to Orlando probably 3 or 4 days later for his funeral, and the place was packed, and it was packed with players, and the players were Payne was an interesting guy. He was a lot of fun. He had a big needle. He had a big mouth, and he was a lot of fun. And he was kind of turning things around in his life and making some changes, and to win that U.S. Open that he did down at Pinehurst on Father's Day was a huge deal for him. And then to have him gone, it was just so eerie. But to see the PGA Tour and this family that I was a part of have so much support for one of their own, it was really impressive.
And Jay, for young people that are listening that aren't familiar with him, do a Google search for an image search. I thought one of the coolest deals ever was his deal with the NFL, where wherever he would go in an NFL city or the closest NFL city, he would wear that team's colors that weekend. And he dressed in a very exotic way.
Randy, he wore these +4s. He wore knickers. It was ridiculous. And in the locker room, we would just, oh man, he obviously he could take it well. But one of the things that he did that none of us realized, and once I realized this, I go, you were not that smart, because he was a good friend, but it was a uniform for Payne. So when Payne went out to dinner, the hat was all part of this garb. First of all, he got paid handsomely for this, ridiculously at the time. But it was this thing that people didn't recognize him when he went out to dinner and things like that. And he really enjoyed that. He was a character. He was from Springfield, Missouri. The golf course Paynes Valley is named in his honor that Johnny Morris had designed with Tiger and things. So the planet Earth is worse off not having Payne around, but Heaven's probably having a good time up there with him. He was something else.
Hey, Jay, thanks for being with us as always on these Friday mornings. Have a great Father's Day. You are the father of 4 beautiful children, beautiful girls. So have a great Father's Day, and I'll see you Sunday morning for Golf with Jay Delsing.
You guys too. Happy Father's Day. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you, Jay. Jay Delsing with us on 101 ESPN.
I just wish he was, a little nicer. Jay, he's just so mean.
I know. Yeah,
he's tough to deal with. He's the best.
He's awesome. Yeah, and I'm doing the Google search for Payne Stewart right now. He just looked like looks like a golfer from a movie. Here's him with his Packers garb on. It's just very cool. Coming up, we've got Take It or Leave It. Send in your text right now to 399-9646, 314-399. Yo-ho!
Okay, it is a Friday edition. Yo-ho!
Yes. Oh, well
there,
done.
I gave it the best effort I could.
Take It or Leave It next on 101 ESPN.
Hey, it's Danny Mac on this Friday morning for Stewart's American Mortgage. If you're someone who is looking to purchase a home or refi, or if you're looking to consolidate some of that ugly credit card debt, maybe you don't know exactly what direction to go to in any of these things, let me make it easy for you. Call Stewie from Stewart's American Mortgage. He joins us this morning here on 101 ESPN. Stewie, what about 100% financing available for folks?
Danny, people are always worried about where am I going to come up with the down payment, or I got to go over the asking price. I don't have enough cash to do both those things. So we sent that and we started this new program, 100% financing on conventional loans. This is not an FHA loan where you're stuck with a PMI forever. It's not a grant that goes ahead and you have to wait 5 years before it's forgiven. This is 100% financing. The PMI is less than FHA, and you can use that extra money to, hey, you got to buy things for the house. Maybe you have to go over the sales price. It really covers that challenge that you have of beating the other bids going over the asking price. So here it is, 100% conventional financing. Bagel loan is eligible for it. So you don't pay closing costs. You don't have down payment. You should be able to get it into the home of your dreams with literally almost no money down.
So if you're looking for that purchase of a home, well, Stewie, he's going to get you the closing table fast. How fast? Try 10 days. Best interest rate possible. Also has the bagel loan. That can help you out, too. So what's the bagel loan? If you borrow $200,000 or more, there's no underwriting fees, no appraisal fees, no title fees, no lender fees, and no closing costs. Stewart is your guy. He makes it easy. Any questions on rates, the industry, the trends? Give Stewart a call. He's on his cell phone right now. Call him. Here's the number, 314-324-4440, 314-324-4440, or you can Google
the bagel loan.
The bagel loan.
NMLS number 226715.
say something. We'll put it out there. If you like it, you can take it. If you don't, send it right back.
Get your text into 314-399-9646 and give us your take it or leave it.
Brought to you by Gloria Lou Realty. Visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com and start packing.
That's my final offer. Take it or leave it.
The Air Comfort Service text lines are open here on 101 ESPN. Dan, Matthew, and Randy. So a couple of days ago, we were talking about Alexander Barkov of the Florida Panthers, and I mentioned that when I come home from work or being out, I get home, open the door, and my dogs have a Barkov for me. Moose and
terrible.
Moose and,
it's just terrible.
Darby. So last night, as I was walking in, I videoed myself walking in and Moose and Darby having the Barkov, and I sent the video to Dan and Matthew. Take it or leave it. That truly was terrible.
Oh, it truly was. I responded very quickly to you.
Did they have a Barkov, though?
They did. I can't take away from the facts that it was a Barkov. However, the text was terrible.
Matthew, do you agree? Are you taking this?
I mean, it was a fantastic text.
No.
I mean, come on. I mean, the joke. Listen, the joke probably needs to, put on the gold jacket over the weekend. But I mean, in the moment, it was necessary. I mean, sometimes you have to do something.
Well, I knew it was coming.
You have to do something.
You knew something was coming with the dogs.
You can't deviate away from it. The world has guided you down this path. It's time to walk it.
Take it or leave it. This is as boring an NBA, NHL finals as we've had in the past decade.
I got to take it. The most exciting part has been people ripping Luka.
I mean, that's what they do. It's nonstop with that.
Yeah.
And McDavid is getting ripped a little bit because he's been quiet in the series with the NHL the NHL finals. It was a fun game last night. They were up 4-1. The Panthers were. Edmonton scores 2 in the third, made it tight down the stretch, but now it's 3-0. It's over, basically.
I'm getting a little freaked out how similar these series have been. Game 1, blowout for the winning team. Game 2, early score for the eventual team that gets blown out in Game 2. And then Game 3, early lead for the winning team. Third, late game heroic / scare for the other team, but they still walk away with a 3-0 win. Like these have been the exact same series in all 3 games. It's freaking me out.
And an opportunity for people to hammer on a person that maybe within the last couple of weeks they call the best player in the game.
And the only reason you're there is because of that individual.
Right, exactly.
Period.
Yeah. I'm going to take that, Danny. I think it's been boring. All right, text line. Matthew, what do you got for us?
Take it or leave it. Tatum and Kachuk should bring the trophies to Ballpark Village on a Saturday afternoon for the opportunity for fans to get photos with both.
I think they probably wind up at Chaminade.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, for sure, Chaminade. I would say that'd be cool if they could do it together.
Yeah, that
would be really cool if they could do it together. Kachuk will be interesting. Does he bring it back to St. Louis? I bet there's going to be something here in St. Louis, and definitely at Chaminade.
Yeah, I would think so.
Take it or leave it. This Cardinals team is actually outperforming their projections right now by being a 500 team. Take into consideration what they can do when they get nearly half the lineup back from injury.
I'm going to leave that. I had this team right around 500 to begin the season. Fangraphs said these guys, meaning the teams in the Central Division, all would be within, I think it was roughly 4.5 games. And that's what we have outside of Milwaukee. And I think they're going to come back to the pack just because their pitching has been decimated. So this is going to be a tight race for the second half.
But Dan, adding in that qualifier at the end that they're playing essentially without their starting outfield, I'm going to take that, because I would have thought if you would have told me no Newt Barr, no Edman, no Walker, and we're a third of the way through the season now, and we essentially haven't had those 3, and they'd still be right around 500, I would have thought no way.
Yeah, that's a good point. And they're going to get healthier with Matz, O'Brien, Gallegos, Robertson. They can. You hope that all 4 can contribute if you're a Cardinals fan, but if you get maybe 2 to contribute, that's a big difference too.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you just told me that Walker is still in the minors and Palante is now in the rotation, I'd have been like, oh, that sounds like a team that's 7 or 8 games under 500 at this point. Like, just those 2 things would have sent me, like, scurrying for, like, cover.
I think the Walker thing is just bizarre at this point. You know, what do you want to see? What do you want to see out of him to bring him back up? And I say bizarre just because of his lack of power with home runs.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that with what Mo said last weekend to the bloggers and podcasters, when he said that we rushed him, I'm thinking that they want him to get a season in AAA that they didn't have.
That's kind of where I was going with this too, Randy. I agree, and maybe you bring him up in September and let him get around, let him get more at bats. But I'm with you. I think it could be a while before we see him.
Yeah, and if the Cardinals are in the hunt in September, and you can only add 2 players to your roster, you add 2 pitchers probably.
I would agree with that too. Maybe an emergency catcher.
Yeah, but not him.
No.
Not Walker.
Nope.
Unless he's tearing it up.
Take it or leave it. The aerial view is better than the normal view on the hockey broadcast.
I think it depends.
Yeah, it's fun at times.
I like the aerial view on a power play.
Power play and obviously over the net.
Yeah, that's the other one. You got to have that for the goals that you turn over or whatever the case may be. But I like seeing the movement of. I've always said this: if you have the chance and you have the income to do it, go buy a ticket on the front of the glass, and you will be hooked for life.
Yeah,
on hockey.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of Memphis, we talked about Jordan Walker. Gordon Graceffa last night, 6 shutout innings for Memphis against New Orleans. He allowed 3 hits, struck out 7, and walked 1.
That's the other question I have. At what point do you bring one of these guys up and just let it loose, see what happens? And he's been good in his last 2 starts.
Yeah, he has. And Walker, one of the reasons he was sent down was pitch selection. 0 for 2, but with 3 walks.
There you go. Take it or leave it. Connor McDavid will never win a Stanley Cup.
Take it. See, that's like Luka. I'm just being a smart aleck there. That's the same people that are saying Luka will never win an NBA championship. He's still a relatively young guy.
Yep.
And he's still the most talented player in the game. He just needs to be in the right place at the right time. And this year, they're in the finals. They're 4 wins away from winning a cup. So I think it's very, very difficult to say, yeah, he'll never win a cup when he's literally within 4 right now.
Isn't it amazing how he flies around the ice?
Yeah, he's incredible.
And they're covering him every step of the way, but he still finds little nooks and crannies to get available to get a shot or set up somebody for a goal. He is amazing to watch.
And the Panthers are winning the way the Blues won in 2019.
Yes, they are.
Their defense is an offense that keeps the puck in the offensive zone. They check, they take the body, they get the puck back. They're just really a tough team. And by the way, I think my new favorite coach is Paul Maurice. He's great.
He's very, very good.
He's very funny.
They had Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying he's hilarious.
3 goals in 6:19. It was Tarasenko, Bennett, and Barkov. That's why I'm bringing this up for you. And essentially, the game was over with those waves of players that they have. They had the first line, the second line, and the third line all score. That's waves of talent that they have.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Randy.
And thank you very much for your texts. Coming up next with the Cardinals in Chicago this weekend. Did Major League Baseball mess up with their new scheduling format? That's coming your way on 101 ESPN.
Presented by Lindenwood University. Real experience, real success.
Dan and Randy, it's the opening drive on 101 ESPN, and it's 8:08. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Dan, the Cardinals will make their only visit to Chicago for the summer this weekend, and I really do think that baseball messed up their schedule. And I like the idea of every team seeing every other team every year. It's a good idea, but there's no way to make it fair or to appeal to the fans the most. I think one of the problems that baseball has, maybe it's from a scheduling standpoint, they're so hung up on Mets versus Yankees every year, which is stupid. So it used to be that you could count on the Cardinals and Cubs playing early in the season, during the summer, and late in the season. Can't count on the late in the season or early in the season anymore because they only play 14 games against each other rather than 18. In my opinion, the summer should be reserved. June and July, there should be a Cardinal series at Wrigley and a Cardinal series at Busch, a 3-game series in each city. Not only that, but there should be one in April or May, and there should be one in September. A home and home with the Cardinals and the Cubs, in addition to the Cardinals, Pirates, Brewers, and Reds.
Love the idea. And I'm going to miss seeing the Cubs more than I'm going to miss seeing Pittsburgh. So let me counter that and ask you this. Do you want to see the Pittsburgh Pirates 18 times?
I'm fine with that, and it's their job to win. I like seeing them 18 times because it gives me a better chance to win the division, historically.
That's the point. Like, strategically, it changes things. Parity becomes part of what we're talking about here because teams can say, you know what, the division is not necessarily what of course you're trying to get it. You're trying to win the division. But with the parity, because of the schedule, the way it's set up, are owners going to spend as much? Are you going to spend as much on those 2 or 3 key free agents? Or are you just going to say, let's just get in with the randomness of baseball? And I think that's part of what you're talking about, too.
It is. I just think it makes more sense, if you do want a fair and level playing field, to have each division team playing the same schedule. And it's so easy. 18 games against each other, 9 home, 9 on the road. Every series, by the way, in the setup is a 3-game series. You don't have to play 4. You don't have to play 2. You play 3 home, 3 on the road with all other 10 teams in your league, and 3 home, 3 on the road with a division from the other league. So you get to see every single team every third year. If you're a Cardinal fan and you're upset that you can't see the Yankees every year, and we don't see the Yankees every year even under this concept, but you can drive across the state to Kansas City and see them. You could enhance, if you're baseball, the travel like the NFL does. What does the NFL do on the night they unveil their schedule? They've got airline ads all over the place. Right? So baseball, I believe, could make this a more lucrative proposition for themselves and a more sensible proposition for themselves. How much more fair could it be than playing everybody in your division 18 times, every other team in your league 6 times, and another division, identical division, 6 times each?
It makes sense. Let me throw this one at you. Have you thought much about realignment in the game? So if you expand...
Go to 32.
Yep. So you go to 32, then realignment, and make that more of... you'll have a National League and American League, but you can add within the division, which would make it more competitive, in my opinion, if you had realignment. I think that's something to consider, too, as you move forward. Because they're going to expand. I think it's going to happen.
Oh, yeah. And I would have no problems at all if they would do that, and you would have to be creative from a scheduling standpoint, but you're going to have wild cards. But have 2 division winners. Have 8 team divisions, 2 8-team divisions in each league, and give a prohibitive advantage to the team that wins the division. And that, by the way, does not include 5 days off.
Do you, by the way, do you have a favorite memory from the Cubs and Cardinals at Wrigley? At Wrigley.
Well, I was there for the Sandberg game.
Oh, were you really?
The Cardinals lost. I was producing that for Jack and Mike. So
Costas was on the call for TV.
For TV. I remember, I can see it right now. Bob came in, sitting on the steps as you walked, the radio booth at Wrigley, sitting on the steps as you walk down to where the microphones are, and me and Bob and Jack just talking Cardinals, Cubs baseball there. Bob sitting on the steps and Jack and I standing on either side. It was an unbelievable, the whole weekend was unbelievable, but that day was unbelievable. The Friday game, Mark Salas started in left field for the Cardinals, and it was a wild game. And then Sunday, was, I believe, Rick Sutcliffe's first start for them, and he struck out 14.
And I think in the Saturday game, NBC had already awarded the player of the game to Willie McGee,
who hit for the cycle.
Hits for the cycle, and Sandberg gets Suter twice. And so Suter is kind of the GOAT in that game and one of the great games that's ever been played there between those two teams. And Willie gets the player of the game, and Sandberg gets Bruce Suter twice.
How amazing. How about you, quickly, your favorite Wrigley memory?
I think the 4-game series a few years ago, and they came back in every game. But when they went back-to-back off of Kimbrel, it was DeYoung and Yachty, and the division was on the line. And if the Cubs wind up taking 3 or 4, they're right there, or sweep, and they didn't. Cardinals swept, and they go on to win the division.
By the way, the double steal game in 85 was also unbelievable.
It was incredible.
It was great. That's Dan. I'm Randy. Coming up, St. Louis City SC in action as they play at Dallas tomorrow, and we're going to talk to their head coach, Bradley Carnell, next on 101 ESPN. Louis City SC back in action tomorrow night, 7:30 at Toyota Stadium in Frisco. They take on FC Dallas. It has been a rough go already for St. Louis City SC relative to last year. And last year we were spoiled early on by the expansion City SC squad. This year, Dan, 3 wins, 9 draws, and 4 losses. And City SC has 18 points. At the moment, they're 3 points, just 3 points out of a playoff spot. Game number 17 of 34. So we're still 2 games away from the midpoint of the season.
Some of the stats are not good. Now some are good. They're first in shots, 5th farthest average shot distance, 2nd worst at shooting on target. 2nd fewest opposition shots, 6th closest average opposition shot distance. So some good, some bad. Rock, I got to ask you, because you're all over this, why can't they put the ball in the back of the net?
Biscuit in the basket.
I think the bigger one is just a simple finishing issue. You said it there. What was the number on shots on target percentage?
So the shots on target percentage,
second worst in the league.
Second worst.
Second worst in the league.
28%.
I think that one's even more stark than the other stat you mentioned, which was they have the 5th longest shot distance right now. And obviously that one's going to be problematic. But I just think when you're 3rd in the league in shots overall, it's just you're getting good looks. But I do think there's an issue with the finishing right now, and I think there's an issue with the quality because you don't finish that high, 3rd in shots in both set and open play, and then you're just sitting middle of the pack in actual goals or in XG. If you want to look at both of them, you're middle of the pack in both of those. So it's telling you the shot quality isn't good enough and your finishing isn't good enough. So little column A, little column B.
Seems like such a fine line, too. You look at City SC with their 23 tallies this year. Colorado has 29 goals. Both teams are -2 in goal differential. But Colorado is 4th in the conference, 6-4-7. And as we mentioned, City SC 3-9-4. It's a razor's edge, and it literally is a game of, or a match of inches. And St. Louis City SC just needs to get some luck going their way, too.
Yeah, but I've been looking at the last 3 or 4 years' standings. Playoff teams don't usually have anything more than about 14 draws. That's about the high watermark for a draw count for a team finishing in the top 8. So you could break the mold and get to 17 draws or something like that and still be a playoff team. But right now, just looking at historically, you're going to have to start putting some W's on the board if you're going to want to separate yourself from the bottom of the league.
Is this as simple, by the way, as something that because they were an expansion team last year and surprised a lot of people that now in year 2 they're taking on a little bit different approach by the opposition going into year 2 against City?
Partially, I really do think like there's just a luck factor and there's a large number factor, which is people want to say, well, they're not getting the stupid turnovers that teams got last year, and to the point they're not as. Last year they were getting those 100% turnovers where you get the ball, your strikers put it in the back of the net because the other team is completely floundering after that turnover. They might not be getting that level, but they still are, I think, 3rd or 4th in the league in forcing turnovers in the other team's defensive third. So they're still forcing those high turnovers. They're just not turning it into goals, and that just gets back to again a lack of quality shots, a lack of finishing, and for me, my big question comes down to how much does a guy like Edward Leuven raise the quality of almost every shot taken by this team.
And he has to be getting close to being in 100% mid-season form, right? Leuven does?
You think so? I mean, the fact that he actually went from 30 minutes up to 80 in his last start was pretty impressive, and the fact that he had 80 and now he's had a full week of training, and it doesn't sound like we've had any hiccups in training from what I've read. It seems like he'd be ready to go a full 90 this week.
So go ahead, Randy.
I was going to say, to your point about draws, there's a team in the league with 8. 3 teams have 7, and St. Louis is the only team with 9 or more. St. Louis leads the league with the 9 draws this season.
It was mentioned yesterday that 2 of the City 2 young players, Caden Glover and Johnny Klein, now they've been training with the first team all week. I'd be curious what they've seen from those guys, and normally that's a trial for those players to come up. Is it not, Rock?
It is, and that's the thing I love about the soccer system is that much like the hockey one, it's like the system's being played at every single level. A 13-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 17-year-old, a first-team player, they're all playing essentially the same system. Obviously, the coaching is going to be a little bit different here and there, but they're playing essentially the exact same system. And so I really just think it might sound cliche, but I really just think effort in this kind of system is going to be a huge part of those young players. Can they, and then, just fitness, you're 18 years old, you're playing in a league full of men. Can you run 7 miles in a 2-hour span and keep up with 27-year-olds who maybe part of their career played in Brazil or England or what have you? That's always going to be the big question.
And Glover considered a defensive specialist, right?
No, he's a forward or a striker.
I figured he would be the glove.
Oh, I like that, Randy.
Yeah.
A little Gary Payton.
Yeah.
We got the glove with City.
One of the weird niches on this show has become players who are named weirdly towards the sport they play. So we had Bailey Falter was the starter.
Better direct that to Randy.
I'm just anytime I'm talking about something weird and kitschy.
There's a UFL kicker named Chris Blewett.
See,
right?
BLEWIT.
You can't have that. Bob Walk with the Pirates.
Yeah, right.
That's my favorite
not a
one.
good picture.
And quick update here.
Homer Bailey.
Yeah.
It looks like we might be having Bradley here for a couple minutes. He was in a meeting and he's getting out of the meeting now. And he should be calling here shortly. So we might be able to talk to Bradley about some of these issues here coming up here in just a second.
Fair enough. And maybe we can get to him because we do have both Moose Johnston and Russ Brandon, the vice president and president of the UFL Championship game here in St. Louis this weekend. Looking forward to that over at the Dome. So a lot going on in St. Louis with City SC on the road, and you'll be able to watch City SC, by the way, this weekend, and you'll be able to see them on Apple.
By the way, it's Dallas FC. I know a lot of people, when me and Dan were talking about it in the e-break, he's like, they got to win this game. If you don't forget, Dallas at City Park back in April was a 0-0 match for City. They had 27 shots, their highest of the season. They had 7 shots on target, tied for their highest of the season. And again, it was 0-0. So everyone wants to know, well, how do you turn that around? Well, they fired their coach like a week ago. And so now they have a new coach, Peter Luchin. And so, again, cliches. I guess you throw the record books out because it's going to be a little bit different with these guys.
All right. Sounds good. Coming up next, we will be joined by the UFL hierarchy of Russ Brandon and Moose Johnston. Those guys will be in studio with us here on the opening drive on 101 ESPN.
There's a new way to play for your daily fantasy. No more lineups. It's all about entries on the newest Pick'em product on our friends Underdog Fantasy's Pick'em Champions. Pick 2 to 5 players from at least 2 different teams. You can jump all across different sports. Select higher or lower on the player stat projections. You pick your entry fee. You're going to be entered in a game alongside other underdogs. Hit your entries. You're walking away with your winnings. Let's put together one for the basketball game coming up. I'm going to go Luka Doncic higher than 32.5 points. He might not be able to win, but he sure can score. Jason Tatum higher than 43.5 points, rebounds, and assists. And Jaylen Brown carrying the scoring load for the Celtics higher than 24.5 points. We're going a high-scoring game overall. Luka Doncic higher on points. Jaylen Brown higher on points. And then Jason Tatum, the St. Louis man, higher on points, rebounds, and assists. You can always add to that. Underdog Fantasy, super easy to play and even easier to get started. You just go to their easy-to-use mobile app or to UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with the promo code ROCC, and Underdog will give you a mystery special pick to use on your first pick'em entry and a deposit offer. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code ROCC to claim your new customer special of a mystery player pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus and present to stay where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concern with your play call. When you're a gamer, visit www.ncbgambling.org. This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The Cardinals pull off a win against the Pirates in Game 3 and get a win in the series as they win 4-3 yesterday. Goldie opened the scoring up with a shot to deep right center in the third, and eventually the Cardinals were able to win on a home run from Brendan Donovan in the sixth. Cardinals start a 3-game series against the Chicago Cubs this afternoon, 1:20 first pitch. Also, last night, Stanley Cup Finals, Game 3. The Panthers got a little scare in the third period, but they win 4-3 over the Oilers. They will go for the sweep on Saturday night. You can catch Game 4 right here on 101 ESPN. Pregame starts at 6:30. And speaking of a potential sweep, Jason Tatum and the Celtics go for the sweep tonight over the Mavericks. You can catch NBA Finals Game 4 right here on 101 ESPN. Pregame starts at 6:30. That is your Sports Center update, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
It's the opening drive on 101 ESPN. We'll have Bradley Carnell, the head coach of St. Louis City SC, at 9:15. We'll also have a late edition of The Fight today. Joining us in just a few moments, Moose Johnston, Executive VP from the UFL, and Russ Brandon, their president and CEO. Moose Johnston, Executive Vice President of Football Operations. Danny Mac, a lot of people have wondered why The Rock has never been to St. Louis for an XFL or UFL game. I was talking to somebody the other day who is intimately involved with the situation, who told me that The Rock, who's doing a movie right now, travels with about 20 people, nutritionist, personal trainer, chef, insurance people, financial people, travels with about 20 people on a private jet. And so when they travel, it costs about $5 million for a day of travel.
Come on.
For The Rock, yeah.
Seriously?
Because of all the people that travel with him in his company.
I wonder how long a movie takes to make, generally. You know, like, is it months? How many months? So you start adding up the money there for him.
Right.
That's off the charts.
Yeah, it's crazy money, and he obviously gets paid a lot, but he is a corporation unto himself, and so that is apparently the reason that he hasn't made his way to St. Louis, even though this is the crown jewel franchise of the UFL and was of the XFL. You would think that he could find one day to make his way here, but apparently he's making a movie in Europe right now, and I don't believe that he'll be in town for the UFL Championship game on Sunday.
That's disappointing.
Yeah.
Did I see something that Tom Brady will be there for the coin toss? Have you seen that? I don't know if I'm right about that.
I could see that. The game is on Fox on Sunday, and Brady is a Fox employee now. It's a 4 o'clock start. So, yeah, I could see Tom Brady being here. That would make sense. Wonder when the last time Brady made his way to St. Louis was.
Been a while.
It has.
Are they coming?
They're
got Russ Brandon
and they're making their way into the studio right now, and we get ready for the San Antonio Brahmas, who eliminated the Battlehawks last week, and they'll take on the Birmingham Stallions, who are the USFL champions. And joining us now is Russ Brandon. He is the CEO and president of the UFL, and Moose Johnston, executive vice president of football operations. Gentlemen, Dan McLaughlin, Randy Karraker, great to have you with us, and congratulations on making your way into St. Louis for the game on Sunday at the Dome. Should be fun, Russ.
Yeah, we're ready to go. Excited to be here. Obviously, the community's been incredible. The 2 years we've been here with Legacy, XFL, and now the UFL, and looking forward to seeing everyone come out and support the UFL Championship on Sunday and fly the colors, fly the Battlehawk colors too. I'm sure the Battlehawk fans out there.
Moose, good to see you. What did you think of being involved with this, and what the year was like for you and just for the brand of the league?
It's been great, and this is actually one of the envious marketplaces, obviously, from the USFL side that we were excited to get to experience. For our guys on Legacy USFL side, we didn't have that one marketplace that really embraced it the way that St. Louis has. So for us to get an opportunity for our guys to play in that environment was something that we were really excited to have. So it didn't disappoint. It was awesome. The way they coordinate their cheers, it's just a tremendous fan base. So it was fun watching our teams have to practice silent count for the first time in 3 years, coming to play St. Louis.
And Russ, when you go back to the first year, and obviously the anti-NFL sentiment benefited the XFL in the first year, and there's still the anti-Kroenke sentiment here that helps. But is there a way, are there things that St. Louis has done to generate these sorts of crowds that other cities could emulate?
Well, I'll tell you, I say this story often, but our first game last year went for a run at like 9 a.m. in the morning. It was freezing out. And I ran by the Dome, and I heard noise in the background. And I'm like, what is that? And I kept running. And there were 6,000 people tailgating at 9 a.m. for a 3 o'clock game. Mm-hmm. I worked in Buffalo for a long time. Daryl's from Buffalo. And I'm like, whoa, this is just like home. This is legitimate. And from that day forward, just seeing the first game, costumes and people in Battlehawks gear, it's really incredible. Brandon Williams, who runs the business side here, a former Ram, and his staff do an incredible job. And we look at best practices and everything that we do, but St. Louis has so many of them that we do want to emulate that across the board. So we're very pleased that we've had over 500,000 people come in our gates over the year this year in the UFL. We've only been an entity for 150 days.
Wow!
So it's we've accomplished a lot. We've got a lot to do, but we're looking forward to being here long term and growing St. Louis in league in general.
How were the TV ratings? How did that go?
It exceeded our expectations for certain. I think we were 35% above where we were a year ago. Last week, I think we were at 1.2 million viewers. Mm-hmm. Fox, ESPN, and ABC have done an outstanding job promoting our league, and being on broadcast TV certainly is helpful.
And one of the things, Moose, that has benefited your league and the UFL is the number of players that the NFL are recognizing and signing. The Battlehawks have had 16 guys that have signed NFL contracts. And we talk about it all the time. A lot of guys get cut from the NFL, and you played for a long enough time, you know that it's right place, right time league, right? And these guys need to find their way into the right place.
Exactly. I've talked to a number of guys about timing and circumstance in the NFL, and it plays a huge role. What was the offense? Were there changes in the staff while you were there? There's a lot of different reasons why you don't get to stay on a roster, and that's been really our charge, through this whole process. We can get guys back to the NFL for a tryout, but we want to do more than that. We want to help them down here, figure out exactly what happened up there the last time we were there, and see if we can get them to stay there. If they can stay there for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and put away some of that money, being on the 53, being on the practice squad and fluctuating back and forth, that's a great opportunity for some of our guys. And we've watched both of these leagues put guys in that position. So that's the biggest thing for us. And I think what I've seen this year, which we didn't see in years 1 and 2 in the USFL, was, boy, these leagues have really tried to do this for a number of years, and they haven't been sustainable. So I'm gonna wait and see what happens here. And I think we finally built that trust with these guys now that, you know what, this is a viable non-traditional route to not just get back to the NFL, but get back and stay. Let me go down. There's some. You got Wade Phillips and Skip Holtz and Bob Stoops. We've got a lot of really good coaches, and then they're in a network where they're building their staffs. It's been fantastic, and our coaches rave about the guys rave about the coaches. One of the great stories this year is we have one of our younger quarterbacks on one of the teams, and he goes, I've never been coached this well in my entire career. Nobody's taken the time to get into the detail of playing the quarterback position from the pocket, because he was an athletic mobile guy, and everybody just leaned on that. They never taught him how to play from the pocket. And he said this year, he goes, I feel so much more confident when I walk on the field because they've taken the time to teach that to me.
I was always curious in watching the games, watched a bunch, is the innovations in what you do on the television side. Yeah. I love that. And how are the players with that? How are the coaches with that? And knowing that they're always mic'd and trying to be careful a little bit, but still have that NFL, UFL feel and football feel to it.
We have to talk to them every so often that, hey, let's remember, we got a lot of guys mic'd out there.
Exactly.
We got a lot of access that we're granting. So, just make sure we're smart. The guy that operates the switches, out there, make sure that he's nimble going into the games. Make sure we don't have anything come on air that we don't want. But I think it was hard for me. There's some earned spaces, and for me, a football huddle is an earned space, right? That happens out on the field. You've got to earn the right to be in that environment or be in that situation. And now we got a guy walking in with a steady cam, and I'm like, you know what? I'm a little, we shouldn't get that access. And then you hear the feedback from the fans, and you see the content that they capture. And it's like, it was hard for me, but I'm like, you know what? That is awesome. That is awesome to take you into that environment. My favorites have been Skip Holtz on the sideline. I think if you're a young coach and you want to learn some things, I think the way that Skip works with his guys and the ability for the broadcast to be able to take you right to that point, and whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, and he's teaching, I think some of the really great moments have happened on the sideline with Skip, and a lot of it's away from X's and O's. It's how do you handle your success? How do you handle your adversity during the course of the game? I think there's been some great moments there where if you're a young coach, you're like, maybe I shouldn't be yelling at my guys all the time. Look at that approach there, where it's a really good dialogue and you're working through stuff.
Good point. Yeah, interesting.
Russ, how meaningful has it been for you with this league to have the NFL, especially take the kickoff rule that you guys have implemented?
Well, to what Daryl mentioned, it's been a long time coming with everything that we've been doing on the rules, the technology, the innovation side. How do we assist the underserved populations in our game? I think we have a female official on every crew as an example. So that was, Daryl and the USFL side, the same thing. We worked collectively with the NFL, with the data, injury data, and that was a 2-year process to work closely with Troy Vincent and the team over there at the National Football League. And we do that across the board. If you look at what happened in the San Antonio game 2 weeks ago with the Super Challenge that took points off the board, that was really a byproduct of Coach Belichick for years in the spring meeting would talk about, I want to challenge any play. And it would always gain a little momentum, but it would never pass. Mm-hmm. So we took over the Legacy XFL. We said, let's try it. Let's give it a shot. We worked closely with the NFL. We talked about it. There's a lot of good rules that hit the cutting room floor in those meetings. So we're always looking to, our sort of mantra is, how can we advance the game? To what Daryl said earlier about being in the huddle and the earned spaces and bringing that to the fans, and the transparency that Dean Blandino and Mike Pereira bring on the broadcast to see how the mechanics work. That's the feedback that we get all the time, how cool that is. Like, like Daryl said, I watch the TV copies after every game, and I can't get enough of Skip Holtz to watch how he communicates with his athletes, and that's what we want. We want to bring that to the consumer. We bring it in the building for people to see it, and we're going to continue to work on that.
How is the viability of the league? We're looking ahead to year 2.
Outstanding.
Good.
Outstanding. Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the merger really kind of sent the message that spring football is here to stay. It didn't make any sense for the two of us to stand and go toe-to-toe because it was going to be hard for both of us to make it. So let's come together and make sure that we have this as an alternative for the guys. And that's the biggest thing. It's not, we just went through the conversation about getting guys back to the NFL and helping them stay in the NFL. We've got a bunch of guys in our league that know that window's closed, but they just love playing the game. And that's kind of the next chapter for us is, okay, how do we serve that player where he can come here and play football in the UFL during the spring, but then we've created an opportunity for him somewhere else and start to grow kind of a lifestyle in the sport of football. There's so many other areas, and we've got guys coming up to us and, going up to Scott Hardeman and Brad Campbell and hey, I'm interested in the video component, which is kind of cool, some of these guys, and I think it's a lot of it comes from that technology. Russ talked about the Super Challenge. The two biggest challenges that were thrown this year that had an impact on the game. It happened with Anthony Becht against San Antonio, but it was San Antonio against DC earlier in the year. They caught it on the iPads on the sideline. That's where the whole process started. So you're watching the play, and I'd never thought about this component of it, where you're looking at it to just see, hey, what was that blitz? How come we got a free runner to the quarterback? And you're trying to do it from an X's and O's standpoint. These guys looked at it and they're like, all right, you got to find something, right? We got a super challenge. Find something wrong on that play. And one of the coaches is like, hey, this guy's, he's downfield. He's illegally downfield. He's 4 yards in the end zone. So they found that on the iPad and then ran it up the chain and were able to get that super challenge. So again, that's some of that technology that our coaches have kind of used in a way that I'd never really anticipated.
Russ, we've seen both of these teams. Should be a really good game on Sunday. 4 o'clock start. What can people expect when they go down to the Dome for the 4 o'clock game on Sunday between San Antonio and Birmingham?
Well, first, we want our season ticket holders with the Battlehawks. We want them to come out, support the league. We have some prizes and some fun activities and cool stuff that we're going to do for season ticket holders. We're going to be pushing out an email to them again today. Come out and support. We've got great atmosphere going around the building. There's going to be some surprise guests that will be a part of the pregame ceremony. Maybe a former great quarterback that played.
A guy named Tom Brady, huh?
And maybe one that played in maybe another one. Brought a Super Bowl here.
Okay. Oh, nice.
So we have a lot going on. It's going to be a great show. It's going to be a great day. It's going to be hot outside. Come out and tailgate, be a part of it, and then come on in and watch great football.
Should be great. And and you can get tickets. Just hop onto the UFL website. Tickets available for the UFL Championship game at the Dome, 4 o'clock on Sunday. Moose, before we let you go, we mentioned the quarterback that brought the Super Bowl here. And I argue that even though we lost the team, our fan base had it as good as any fan base ever during those 5 years, 99, 2000, 01, 02, 03. With that offense, 5 Hall of Famers, it'll probably wind up being 6 when Torrey Holt goes in. Defense you could still hit. You had people like London Fletcher and Kevin Carter, 17.5 sacks 1 year, DeMarco Farr, great defensive backfield. You had another Hall of Famer in Aeneas Williams. Is that a reasonable argument that this fan base for that 5-year period, that little, it was a short stretch, but that was about as good as it ever was?
Well, you forgot a couple of you. You forgot James Hodges and Ernie Conwell. So don't forget those guys in the running game. Everybody talked about the greatest show on turf. But when that team wanted to run the football, holy smokes, man, they get in 12 personnel, and there were some big boys there. So I was always impressed with the running game that St. Louis was able to pair with that passing game. So that's when you're a great team. But, yeah, I was a part of – I got to put my eyes on the presentation that the city of St. Louis presented to try to keep the team here, and I thought it was outstanding. I don't know if you could have done anything better. Sometimes you give it your best shot and it doesn't work out, and you hope that you get another opportunity. But this fan base has shown that they love football, and I think we're going to see that on Sunday. Is their team there? No. Was it disappointing last week? Absolutely. I mean, you're going to want to be there. It's the first time you had an opportunity to host a championship game and have your team in that championship game. But I know the way that this city embraces the game of football. We talk about all of our fan bases and how do we replicate what's going on here in St. Louis. every single one of our markets has that core group of passionate fans. There's just thousands of them here in St. Louis. That's what we've got to get to, because that core group that starts to grow, and you hear Coach Beck talk about it. Hey, if you have a friend that's never been to a Battlehawks game, make sure you bring them, and that's how it organically starts to grow. But yeah, I think that this community has always embraced the game of football. They had those 5 years with those great teams. They know how fun it can get inside that facility. So I do. I hope this community has another shot. And until they get that shot in the NFL, they've got us here with the UFL, and we are blessed to be in this marketplace. And it's somebody who looked at it from the outside in and watched what was going on here last season. When you get here and get to experience that as a part of our league now, it's awesome.
Well, thanks for what you guys do for us. By the way, is there going to be a rule requiring every team to have a fullback/H-back? Are you going to get that implemented?
I'm pushing it up to the competition committee right now. Our all UFL team was a 3 wide receiver personnel grouping. We got to get that fixed.
All right, thank you, gentlemen, and good luck with the future of the UFL. Thank you for what you've brought to us, and hopefully St. Louis shows well on Sunday.
Thank you so much.
Russ Brandon, he is president and CEO of the UFL. Daryl Moose Johnson, he's Executive Vice President of Football Operations, joining us here on 101 ESPN. Coming up, we've got a late edition of The Fight. Get your text in, 314-399-9646, 314-399. Yo-ho! Matthew didn't even help me out there. Get your name and the word fight in to 101 ESPN. Thank you, Russ. Thank you.
Is your outdated AC unit chugging along like your old VHS player and having you feeling like you're stuck in a time warp? Whoa. It's time to step into the future and bring your home into the 21st century. With the Air Alliance team, you'll get expert service, affordable prices, and a guarantee that'll keep you cool all summer long. Don't let your AC unit be more retro than mixtapes.
What's that?
To request an appointment, go online to airallianceteam.com. That's Air Alliance Team. Getting the job done quickly, correctly, 100% of the time.
Clement Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Columbia presents things you probably don't know. Number 1, the first person convicted of speeding was going 8 miles per hour. And number 2, Clement Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram of Columbia is your go-to for a new vehicle during the Make This the Summer event.
Hey, Dad, what was your first summer job?
I was busting tables.
I hope that paid better than my first summer job.
What job?
Being on the radio.
Clement Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Columbia.com.
The 101 ESPN has your chance to win a family 4-pack of passes to the Night of Fire and Thunder on Saturday, June 29th at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Bring out the whole family for a night filled with jet dragsters, pro mods, food, drinks, live music, fireworks, and more. Get all the details and get entered to win that free family 4-pack for a Night of Fire and Thunder right now, either at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 mobile app.
Welcome to the fight. In the red corner, Average Joe Listener. And in the blue corner, the undisputed king of morning drive. Please welcome Randy Karraker.
Back on the opening drive, it is 8:56 here in St. Louis. Late edition of the fight. Randy has stepped outside, so we welcome Ryan to 101 ESPN. Ryan, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Danny. How we doing?
I'm doing well. Have you ever been in the fight or maybe the gauntlet?
No, this is the inauguration for me.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, we're running a little late, so we're going to jump right into it. Here we go with question one. On this day in 2010, the Cardinals signed Jeff Suppan for his second stint with the club. Which National League squad had released him a week prior to that? Was it the Brewers, the Diamondbacks, or the Pirates?
I'll go with the Brewers.
All right, let's go to question two.
Two of the Blues' 4 Jack Adams winners also played for the Blues during their career. The first was Red Berenson in 1981. Who was the other winner who also played for the Blues? Was that Brian Sutter, Barclay Plager, or Bobby Plager?
Let's go Brian Sutter.
Question 3. In what has proven to be an increasingly important trade in franchise history, Alexander Steen arrived 20 games into the 2008 season in a trade for which Blues winger? Was it Brad Winchester, Andy McDonald, or Lee Stempniak?
Stempniak.
All right, and Jerry West rebuilt multiple teams in his career and won 2 Executive of the Year awards with the Lakers in 1998 and with which other team? Was it the Warriors, the Grizzlies, or the Clippers?
The Warriors.
Is that your final answer, sir?
It is.
All right, Rock is taking off his headset, and he is headed to the hallway to go grab Randall. How do you feel, Ryan?
Not great, I'll tell you that.
Oh, you should feel better. You did a good job, man. You did a good job. I'm telling you, Randy has got to be ready this morning.
I'm here.
All right, here we go. Randy is taking his spot, and say good morning to Ryan.
Ryan, good morning. Thank you very much for playing, and thanks for listening. How's it going today?
Thanks for having me. It's going good. I'm ready for this heat to be done already.
Yeah, me too. It's going to be here for a week or so.
Are you ready for question one, Randall?
Apparently I am, Dan.
I just cut you right off, didn't I? Okay, here we go. On this day in 2010, the Cardinals signed Jeff Suppan for his second stint with the club. Which National League squad had released him a week prior to that?
I'm going to go with the Brew Crew. I'm going to go with... I'm going to say that he had gone to Milwaukee, and his entire time away from the Cardinals was with the Brewers. I'll go with the Milwaukee Brewers.
Final answer?
Yes, sir.
Randy, 2 of the Blues' 4 Jack Adams winners also played for the Blues during their career. The first was Red Berenson in 1981. Who was the other winner who also played for the Blues?
It had to be Brian Sutter, I would think, who led them to a really great season in 1991. I'll go with Sudsy.
Are you ready for question 3?
Yes, sir.
In what has proven to be an increasingly important trade in franchise history, Alexander Steen arrived 20 games into the 2008 season in a trade for which Blues winger?
His brother, I think, was named Ren and Stempy. Lee Stempniak.
Awful.
Terrible.
From Toronto, eh? Lee
Ren and
Stempy. Stempy got around, too. He played for like 10 teams.
He could score.
Yeah, he could.
He's a good player.
If you do the immaculate grid hockey, Stempniak's always a good play.
He is a good play. That's a really good point. Randy, Jerry West rebuilt multiple teams in his career, and he won 2 Executive of the Year awards. Once with the Lakers in '98, and with which other team?
I think he won with the Grizzlies. I'm going to go, and he got around, but he didn't win. Didn't win with Golden State or the Clippers. I'm going to say that he did that with the Memphis Grizzlies.
By the way, in both the cases of this fight, the phrase "got around" meant he played with a lot of different teams in the league.
Well, it's here. If we just do this.
Oh, jeez.
Hold on.
Do I have to pot you up?
Yeah. Jerry West.
I've been around,
There it is.
Yeah,
There it is. There it is.
He's not saying that today.
Number of the day.
What the hell?
I don't know why.
Terrible.
He's not saying.
What?
What is it with you and death?
What?
He has a morbid fascination.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
I'm just trying to make the point, Dan, that dead people generally don't talk. I see dead people.
On to question 5. We don't have a 5th question.
That's why we have a big spring every year, Randy. Let's go. We have a winner in today's fight. Randy Karraker was able to fight off a Hall of Famer yesterday. Was he able to fight off a first-time player today? Ring that bell.
Go crazy, folks. Go crazy.
The winner and still champion of the fight, Randy Karraker.
The fight is presented by Golf Discount of St. Louis, with the most experienced club fitters in town. Why shop anywhere else?
Just win, baby.
Let me just make this point. When I go, and it could be soon, I'm old, but when I go, I guarantee I'm not going to be talking on the radio the next day.
Probably
so
not.
I can personalize this,
All of us could, really.
It's true.
It's very true.
Except for Casey Kasem.
Well, that's true, too.
Casey's Coast to Coast.
I used to listen to that.
I do, too. It's great.
I'm Casey Kasem.
So,
yeah,
I love that guy. I love that voice so
last
much.
week, American Top 40. This week in 1979, the Bee Gees had their 6th consecutive #1 hit, Love You Inside Out.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that.
Yep.
That's more of the useless trivia that's rattling around in your brain.
Keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the
sky.
By the way,
the stars.
Is it the stars?
Is it the sky or stars?
Stars.
Okay.
You're reaching for the stars.
Okay. Whatever.
By the way, speaking of Randy Karraker today, he did get the win. He beat Ryan 4-3. Ryan, an impressive job for your first fight ever, getting 3 correct. But unfortunately, Randy Karraker did hit the jack.
That was to be expected. It was fun, guys. Appreciate it.
Ryan, thank you.
Ryan.
Happy Father's Day.
I appreciate it. Thank you. You guys, too.
Thank you.
There it is. Let's go through the questions and answers.
Did we know
really
he was
quickly.
a father?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Just taking a wild shot at. On this day in 2010, the Cardinals signed Jeff Suppan for his second stint with the club. It was the Brewers who had released him. He gave the Cardinals 30 games that year, surprisingly enough. 2 of the Blues' 4 Jack Adams winners also played for the Blues during their career. Red Berenson, Brian Sutter, and then, of course, you have Scotty Bowman and Joe Quenneville, the other Blues coaches, to take home the Jack. Joe Quenneville and Ken Hitchcock, not Bowman, my apologies. And what has proven to be an increasingly important trade in franchise history. It was Alexander Steen and Lee Stempniak for Carlo Koliakovo and Alexander Steen. And, of course, they eventually went on to win a cup, and now he's going to be the GM in a couple of years. And Jerry West rebuilt multiple teams in his career. We're going to talk about that coming up later on today. And he won 2 Executive of the Year awards. It was with the Lakers in 98. They were a championship team. And then not with his other championship team in the Warriors. It was, in fact, the Grizzlies rebuilding that franchise as they were an expansion club moving over from Vancouver. That's what earned him his 2nd Executive of the Year award in 2004. So a 4-3 win for Randy Karraker today. Thank you again for Ryan for joining the show.
Ryan, thank you very much. Dan remembers this. I think we've talked about it, Matthew, but we should have had the Grizzlies. We did have the Grizzlies. Bill Laurie purchased the Grizzlies. The league told him he would have to wait a year and keep them in Vancouver a year before he could move them to St. Louis, and he bailed on the deal.
Why not just bite the
bullet? And so he, on 1 year? Once he bailed, then Michael Heisley, a Chicago billionaire, stepped in and said, yeah, sure, I'll buy him and keep him in Vancouver for a year, and then moved him. Didn't even change the name, just moved him to Memphis.
Why not bite the bullet on 1
year?
1 year. That's all it was.
It was number one. It was an agreed to deal. It was done. It was so done that Blues salespeople were selling suites because they were going to change the name of the franchise to the Rhythm.
Oh, no.
It was going to be the St. Louis Rhythm. So you had the Rhythm and Blues, and the salespeople were going to corporations in St. Louis trying to sell suites for both teams.
Look at Rock. He's totally upset, distraught.
You're telling me it was going to be the St. Louis Rhythm? Like, that's a real thing that almost happened.
Yep. Yeah.
I can't.
We would have had an NBA team for the last quarter century.
Yeah. Put your glasses back on.
Hashtag new sound in town. It would have been amazing.
Yeah, would have been great.
And then you have everything that happens with Katrina, with the Hornet. And then you throw that in with the not getting their own football team. Why must this city screw itself so often?
I don't know. And how cool, how much of a great fit would Ja Morant have been in St. Louis?
Oh, Jesus.
So I'm just saying.
Bradley Carnell has decided to call in at some point.
Oh, good. Yeah, let's do a quick rush hour reset, though.
Okay.
Next on 101 ESPN. Hey, if you want to engage customers with your business, you should get in touch with 2060 Digital. It's a great Hubbard company. It's a sister station of 101 ESPN. And at 2060 Digital, they can handle all of your social media and digital needs. They know how to engage customers with social media, how often to post, what to post, pictures to post, and they will draw customers to your business. Not only that, but they'll put together a stellar website for your business. And here's the other cool thing about what they do. They know the algorithms of the internet. So when you have somebody search for a company in your category, 2060 will set it up so that your company appears at the top of the list on the front page. It's really important when you're drawing customers, when somebody does a search, to have it be on the first page, and they can do that at 2060 Digital. It's easy to get to. Just go to 101ESPN.com/2060 Digital, 101ESPN.com/2060 Digital. Let them prove it to you. Visit 101ESPN.com/2060 Digital to request a free complimentary digital audit today. Cards and Cubs open a 3-game series this afternoon at Wrigley Field in Chicago, and it's going to be a fun pitching pairing. The Cardinals will send their right-hander, Kyle Gibson, to the mound against Cubs lefty Jordan Wicks. Looking forward to the Jordan Wicks versus Jordan Hicks matchup, by the way, at some point.
That ain't going to happen.
Why?
I'm telling you, it's not going to happen.
At some point, it's got to happen.
I've already got every fifth day for both guys until September, and it's not happening.
You looked for it, huh?
I did. I was like, okay, here's an off day for San Francisco. They could push him back. It's not going to happen.
I'm disappointed by that. Gibson, 4-2 with a 3.76 ERA, and the Cardinals will want to stay on the winning track after a 4-3 win yesterday over the Buccos. Donnie Baseball hitting a home run, a solo shot in a 3-3 game in the 7th so that the Cardinals can come away with a victory.
And the bullpen very good. 4 2/3, just 4 base runners, 3 hits allowed, 1 walk. So first save for Kittredge, first win for Chris Rycroft. And the matchups this weekend, it's interesting. I mean, the Cubs going with 2 out of the 3 with lefties. The Cardinals only have a 680 OPS against left-handed pitching this year. It's Wicks, Imanaga, and then Tyon, the right-hander, will go on Sunday. And the Cardinals are trying to get healthier here. They have rehab assignments all weekend. Sunday, Matz. Saturday, O'Brien. Tonight, Gallegos and Robertson as well. So trying to get healthy as they move along in this road trip.
City SC is going to play at Dallas tomorrow. We're going to talk to Bradley Carnell, the head coach of City SC, in about 5 minutes here on 101 ESPN. And golf, as they continue at the U.S. Open, Patrick Cantlay is the leader. And you yesterday, Dan, I don't know if you said it during the time we were on the air or while we weren't, but you said that Rory McIlroy was going to win the U.S. Open, and you are probably going to be right.
I don't know. Off to a good start. I just felt like the way that he's been playing the last couple of events, he was okay at Memorial. He was really good the week before. He's won a couple of times this year. And the fact that he's taken care of some of the personal issues that he had going into the tournament, I just thought that this might be a good place for him. And have you ever seen a guy drive the ball like this guy?
He's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable, and I thought that would play into Pinehurst number 2 as well.
Rory is +2 on the day. He is at 3 under par for the tournament. Patrick Cantlay gets underway at 12:25. He has a 1-shot lead over Thomas Detry and Ludwig Oberg, A-B-E-R-G, Oberg. I don't get it, but I'll go along with it. And Bryson DeChambeau is at 2 under par. Tony Finau also at 2 under. By the way, DeChambeau is underway this morning. He is a +1 for the tournament. And there's one player today that is under par, 2 under par, and that is Finau, who at the moment is tied for 7th.
I always put you on the spot, but do you know what Chris Nagel was doing? I know he was like +6 or 7 at one point yesterday. St. Louis native that qualified for the U.S. Open, plays out at Meadowbrook Country Club here in town. But Chris Nagel had a chance to make it to the U.S. Open, and that's a great local story.
He is +1 through 3 today. He finished +11 over.
+11, okay. Cut is probably going to be around +5, so he's got some work to do. That's going to be tough to make that cut.
Yeah, he is at the moment 12 over for the tournament. There's only 2 golfers behind him. He's tied with Grant Forrest and Santiago de la Fuente.
It should tell you how hard it is. Chris Nagel is a unbelievable player.
Great.
He's a great player, and he's +12 at the U.S. Open.
And one other quick one, and this will be a topic of conversation, I'm sure, for talk radio and talk TV throughout the course of the day. Caitlin Clark has said to people that are talking about her, saying any racist or misogynistic comments are, quote, not acceptable. She said, people should not be using my name to push those agendas. It's disappointing. It's not acceptable. Treating every single woman in this league with the same amount of respect, I think, it's just a basic human thing that everybody should do.
Hasn't she handled all this stuff so well?
For a 22-year-old.
Yeah, she's been great.
For anybody, she's handled it great, but for a 22-year-old, she's very, very self-aware, and she's got things figured out, and she's going to be just fine.
We also should mention Stanley Cup Finals last night. The Panthers go up 3-0 with a 4-3 win over the Oilers.
And tonight you've got the Mavericks and Celtics, Game 4, and it'll be the Celtics trying to sweep that series. St. Louis and Jason Tatum trying to lead his club to a sweep of Dallas. All right, that is your Rush Hour Reset. Coming up, Bradley Carnell, head coach of St. Louis City SC. They're in Dallas on Saturday, tomorrow at 7:30. And Bradley will join us next on 101 ESPN. Hey, I attended Lindenwood University. I loved and still love Lindenwood. And if you are thinking about college, or maybe you have a youngster that's thinking about college, think about Lindenwood University. You can take control of your future with a degree from Lindenwood. It's nationally recognized with over 100 degree programs, expert faculty, and a great learning environment. You can apply today or schedule a visit at lindenwood.edu. You know, Lindenwood's been around since 1832, educating the St. Louis region for almost 200 years. And from a financial standpoint, they award over $30 million in scholarships and grants annually. It's a great Division I school. You can enjoy all the sports, all of the different things that happen there. There's all kinds of great clubs, and they have traditional and online programs available for every stage of your academic journey. If you're a youngster and you're thinking about college and you want to find an exciting Division I campus experience that's quite affordable, go to Lindenwood. Learn more at lindenwood.edu and schedule your visit today. Dan McLaughlin, Randy Karraker, the opening drive, 101 ESPN, and St. Louis City SC heads out on the road to take on Dallas FC tomorrow night. And the head coach of St. Louis City SC, Bradley Carnell, joins us, as he often does, here on Game Week on 101 ESPN. Bradley, good morning. It's great to have you with us. How you doing?
Morning, Randy. Thanks for having us over. Yeah, getting ready to have a training session, and then we're off to Texas.
How do you feel about this one? Dallas has kind of struggled. They have a new coach. With your week of training and what you know about them, how do you feel about this one?
Yeah, it's always, when a coach gets let go, there's always that desired, wishful bounce-back effect and, trying to get some reinstilled energy in the group. So, that's first and foremost, the tactical battle, the X's and the O's. I think that's secondary on the day. I think we're going to come up against an energized team, a team got something to prove. So for us, we've had a very competitive week. We have our own issues and we're pushing our own agendas. So, very good assistant coach in Peter Lucien, and now he's got the chance to prove himself. So we're expecting their best. They're a difficult team to break down, Randy. They have a very good defensive record, only 18 goals conceded. So they're a tough nut to crack at the best of times, and I'm sure this weekend is going to be a tough game for sure.
As you can imagine, a lot of folks talking about scoring goals, trying to get the ball back into the net, trying to score. So, Coach, what do you have to do to score more goals? Just a simple question. What do you need to do?
Yeah, Danny, we're just keeping the chance creation high. We're just keeping the energy high. And when you're in front of goals, without, deflecting, and, many coaches just say it's my job to get the players to that 18-yard area. The rest is creation. The next is creativity. The next is freedom of thought and execution. So the more times that we can design sessions and we can get guys in front of goals, that's part of the job, and that's what we've been doing. And we've shown great strides in that department, Danny. I mean, we have some of the best, records in terms of I like to collect data, and we, behind the best ball-playing teams in the league, we are sitting second and third with passes in the opponent's box, touches in the opponent's box, getting shots off. We're number one in the league. So, now we want to try and start filing it down and saying, okay, we're getting these types of chances. What are we doing to put them in the back of the net? So, for me, it's about training.
Bradley Carnell, head coach of St. Louis City SC, with us on 101 ESPN. It's interesting because you lead the league in draws with 9, and you mentioned that you lead the league in shots. Do players sometimes get frustrated and press maybe when the ball isn't going into the net and it's just one shot that goes in that turns that draw into a W?
Yeah, I mean, that's, you're in a cycle sometimes, and you can see when it's going your way, the shots that hit the post go in. The shots that, when you're having a moment like maybe we're hitting the post like Edu last week, and that one does not go in. It comes to Tim Parker, falls to his feet. We have an open goal, but Claudio Bravo steps in there as a Portland defender and saves it on the line. So, and the thing is, as a job as a leader, you have to keep these guys going from a mentality standpoint, from a motivational standpoint. So, the minute you start putting on pressure and start putting on a load is when there's a fear factor coming in. So, we have the most ties in the league, but we also have a lot of good things going on. We've shown a lot of growth and development, even though the points have not been on the board and the goals have not been scored as freely and flowingly as last year. So, but again, we take a lot of things in consideration, and without painting a false picture, we've taken strides forward. So we're expecting us to turn that tide pretty soon.
Coach, you mentioned yesterday that two of the City 2 young players, and Caden Glover and Johnny Klein, have been training with the first team all week. What have you seen from those players, and what are the things that you want to see when considering a first team trial for a young player?
Yeah, so sometimes when you bring in some fresh faces, they bring in fresh energy, fresh ideas, and, don't accumulate the baggage and the luggage that has been going on for the last 5-6 weeks. So, sometimes it's just a bit of freedom, and sometimes you can, overthink things and create problems that aren't even there. So, by having two fresh guys who we believe in from St. Louis, what an amazing story for us. We believe in development. We believe in the pathway system. City is doing a great job. So, they're very competitive in their league. We want to get guys who, present themselves in the right way and show that, we don't just talk about it, but we actually do that with development through the different pathway systems.
You mentioned, Bradley, that this team is playing. I thought you meant this, so let me make sure I get this correct. You think that this team is as good as, and just from a tactical standpoint, is playing as well as last year. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, everything goes to show that, and we've seen it. We've challenged the group in different ways. We've added new elements to our on-the-ball game plans and match plans. So we've seen a lot of development, and I must say the guys have responded really well. So the thing that does grow is frustration, because when the guys feel that they're doing so much, and unfortunately we get into great moments, and we have the 4th highest clean sheets in the league as well, with 5. So there's so many boxes being checked at the moment, and that's got to give one hope and inspiration and motivation to continue doing what we're doing. So I said we played 20 games since preseason against MLS opponents. We've lost 4 games, right? So, put that bigger picture. Yeah, usually teams who don't lose games are usually there at the end of the season. So this is what we're aiming for. And yeah, we just have to find ways to turn those ties into big games. And, without taking too much of your time, you go back 3 games now. You go to LAFC. We should be leading at halftime. Unfortunately, we miss a penalty. We score a goal, gets taken back. We go play home against Seattle. One random ball over the back where we dominate a Seattle team, here at City Park. Everything goes in your favor except the goal tallies, right? So, and then we take it to Miami. Everyone said, yeah, it could be a 4-5-2 scoreline in our favor, and should have been. We felt like it was 2 points lost, and everyone was celebrating us for 1 point gain. That we felt like it was a 2 point loss because we had so many great moments. So if you just think of 3 games and a 3-game swing with 6, 7, 9 points, wherever it goes, can put you, where can that put you in the league? So we feel we're pretty close, but we don't want to get too comfortable thinking that we're close. We actually want to get these points on the board.
Bradley, the late St. Louis Cardinals manager, Whitey Herzog, lost his closer, a Hall of Fame closer, Bruce Sutter, in 1984. Sutter had 45 saves, and after Sutter signed with Atlanta, Whitey said, I just got 45 games dumber. Roman Berkey makes a coach a lot better, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. And even in a year or even in the 16 games now that we've had to call up on him way too many times. I remember games in last year, every single game he was giving us 3-4 world-class saves, right? So if you look at the data points, we're not using him as frequently. He makes crucial interventions. His reading of the game is immaculate. He's coming off his line. So he does other contributions just in different ways, but having on part of our team, and I wouldn't even say just as a player, he's so much in the leadership group. He's so much an extended arm of what us coaches are trying to get through to the group. So, I've seen a big shift in his leadership this year, and I can see him flourishing under this sort of leadership role. Last year, he led by a lot of doing, and we were grateful for that. He's got to continue doing what he's doing and need him on those odd occasions, but for sure he's an asset to our team.
Hey, Coach, is there a way that you can set the tone this weekend and take that energy away from Dallas on the flip side?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we play with a certain edge. We play with a certain contrasting style to a lot of Western Conference opponents. We train like this every single day. So what their coach might be doing is rallying up his troops to try and be competitive, to know what to expect, and to try and prove people wrong. We do this within ourselves Monday through Friday and play Saturday. So, this is a game for us. But if we get that first goal, if we get that first moment of sort of sway of the momentum, and we can take a stranglehold and tighten the screw, as we have done in that stadium before, and then last year the rain hit us. But we've had some pretty good moments on the road. We just need to now, like I said, execute.
Coach, we always enjoy having you on the show. Thanks so much for the time. We appreciate it. Have a good weekend, a happy Father's Day, and good luck tomorrow in Dallas.
Awesome. Thanks, Randy. Thanks, Danny.
You got it, buddy.
We'll talk to you soon. That's Bradley Carnell, head coach of St. Louis City SC at Dallas tomorrow night.
Always well thought out. Mm-hmm. The answers, doesn't miss a beat, does he?
No, he gets it. And it's I know that because they aren't doing what they did last year in terms of the statistics, I think there's a lot of people that are down on him. But he knows more about soccer than I do, and I'm assuming that he knows more about soccer than most of the people that are listening. And you can play better. We know it. We see it in the sports that we are familiar with. You can be a better team and not succeed as much. And I've heard from multiple soccer experts that say that's the case. This team is better. It's playing just as well, if not better than last year. It's just not having the success of last year's team.
I wonder, too, if the competition is played up, knowing that this was an expansion team. And, Rock, maybe you can chime in here, but this was an expansion team last year. They snuck up on some of these teams, and it's just a different feel in year 2. They're not sneaking up on anybody.
Yeah, teams are more prepared. They're focusing on you, and the fact of the matter is they're doing that to a team like you said that's in their second year. I think there's some people who don't understand that most MLS teams haven't been turned around 100% over the last 2 seasons. That's essentially what you've had to do. So the fact that you're not a 100% perfect team and there's still maybe some holes in the roster, that's not a surprising thing, and nor should it be necessarily a shot against the coaching staff or the front office.
Sure.
I mean, you just haven't had the time. We're seeing it right now in this next transfer window coming up. They already have 2 deals locked in. You're just going to have to wait till July 18th.
That's Matthew. That's Dan. I'm Randy. Coming up, we talked earlier in the fight about Jerry West and some of the jobs that he did in rebuilding franchises. But who else has done a fantastic job of especially building quickly? That's coming your way on 101 ESPN. Hey, Father's Day is Sunday, and if you don't have that idea picked out for Dad yet, if you don't have the purchase made, you need to go to mysoundstory.com and use the promo code ESPN to get a 10% discount. Now, Sound Story previously has been an audio podcast of your dad or whomever you buy a Sound Story for, but now they can use video too. And with Father's Day here, you can get this, and it's easy and it's incredibly special, and it'll show Dad how much he means to you, and then you're going to have it forever. It's a great idea for you and your brothers and sisters to go in on a Sound Story so that you can preserve your dad's legacy, his smile, his laugh. Save it for your family to enjoy for generations to come. Just bring him in, and he will be interviewed by either myself or Tim McKernan or Anthony Stalter, and this file will be available, this 1 hour interview, for you, for your kids, for your grandkids and their grandkids, and you'll have so much great history from your family, from your dad, from this Father's Day. Purchasing a gift certificate couldn't be any easier. All you need to do is go to mysoundstory.com. Use the promo code ESPN for a 10% discount. Sound Story, for you, for them, forever.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update. Brought to you by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoflex. The Cardinals yesterday close out their series against the Pirates with a victory, 4-3 over the Pirates, thanks to a Brendan Donovan solo shot, his 5th of the year, to take the lead in the 6th. The Cardinals will start a 3-game series against the Cubs in Chicago this afternoon. 1:20 first pitch. It'll be Kyle Gibson facing off against the lefty for the Cubs, Jordan Wicks. Wicks on the season 1-2 with a 4.64 ERA. Last night in the Stanley Cup Final, Game 3, the Panthers take a commanding 3-0 lead of the series with a 4-3 victory. Game 4 will be on Saturday right here on 101 ESPN. You can catch Game 4 of the NBA Finals tonight on 101 ESPN. Pre-game starts at 6:30. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
In the 1995-96 NBA season, the Los Angeles Lakers won 53 games, and they were good, but they didn't have superstars like the Lakers are expected to have. It was the last year of Magic Johnson, and they got knocked out of the playoffs early. After that season, for 96-97, Jerry West traded Vlade Divac for the rights to a young star by the name of Kobe Bryant, and he also signed Shaquille O'Neal. In one offseason, the Lakers added Bryant and O'Neal, and that's just part of the wonder and legacy of Jerry West, who also was involved in the drafting of Magic Johnson by the Lakers and helped them build the team with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as well, and really started a legacy in L.A. Jerry West passed away this week at the age of 86, two-time NBA Executive of the Year. And with what he did with that team in that singular offseason, Dan, I was thinking about great offseasons that teams have had, and obviously we localize it. And we're so lucky. We've had a couple of these, and a couple that we lived. The 99 Rams, after 98, when their leading receiver was Amp Lee. Leading receiver was Amp Lee in 98. But Dick Vermeil was in his second year. They go 4-12, and they've got real problems. They don't have a good quarterback. They don't have a real good running back. Their receiver room is devoid because Isaac Bruce had been hurt. So what they do is they go out and they sign Adam Timmerman to play guard. They go out and acquire Marshall Faulk as a running back. They go out and draft Torrey Holt. Then they went out in the coup de grace, signed Trent Green to be their quarterback, and a completely different team in a league that had right under the nose of everybody turned offensive, and they didn't realize it. They go out and get Mike Martz as the offensive coordinator, and all of a sudden 4-12 turns into 13-3 in the Super Bowl champs. That was one of the great off seasons ever in sports.
I think baseball related for me was back in 2000, localizing this, but the Cardinals were not very good. Late 90s, and to their credit, they had McGuire for half of 97. 98, he hits 70, and in 99, he hit 65. So people were coming to the ballpark in droves to see this guy hit, and they turned the money coming through the turnstiles, they put it back in the product. They put it back on the roster. They went out and signed and traded for Jim Edmonds. They got Fernando Vina. They got Darryl Kyle. And a name that gets overlooked a lot was Dave Veers. Dave Veers wound up being a closer for that team, and that was a key signing and a key guy that was brought in.
Well, and to add to that, think about this. First of all, they rebuilt up the middle. They signed Matheny as a free agent to be the catcher. They trade for Renteria. They get Vina to play second and Edmonds. And then Kyle, Veers, they bring back Andy Bennis. And a real underrated part of that team, Tony had his jersey in his office forever, Pat Hentgen. Yeah. So they go get 3 starting pitchers, kind of like this year's Cardinals did.
Was Dustin Hermanson part of that too?
He was too. Yeah. And so they completely rebuilt their up the middle and went from a team that even with McGuire hadn't made the playoffs in 97, 98, 99 to what we have enjoyed basically for a quarter century.
The national perspective that came to mind for me, there was 2. I'll stay with baseball, but the Yankees. They had the core 4. You had Williams, you had Rivera, you had Jeter, you had Posada, but then you added Tino Martinez, Scott Brosius, Paul O'Neill, Chuck Knobloch. In 1995, they finished second. In 96, that was a good team, but 97, no, and all of a sudden that core of those guys mixed in with free agents that they would sprinkle in became just a juggernaut. And Joe Torre.
Yeah, that was huge. And Bob Watson, people tend to forget, was the general manager of that first championship team, the guy who brought in a lot of those ancillary pieces. Another one that we had here in St. Louis, give Army credit, because I know a lot of people were upset the day that the Blues brought back David Perron for a third time, signed Tyler Bozak, and we were thinking, okay, well, it's the same old Blues. And then that night, July 1st, they make the trade for Ryan O'Reilly, and that changed the fortunes of the franchise. We knew Ryan O'Reilly was a really good hockey player. He was a skilled hockey player, but we didn't know the ancillary benefits that Ryan O'Reilly could bring to a hockey team. What a huge day, and one rebuild changed a team that was that didn't make the playoffs in 2018 to a 2019 Stanley Cup champion.
I think this is a good one. 314 says the Celtics, when they got Garnett, Ray Allen, drafted Rondo, mixed him in with Paul Pierce.
Huge.
That was a good one. And I was thinking about basketball, too. I mean, you had Jordan and Pippen, but then when you got out to get some guys to sprinkle in, you got Steve Kerr, who wins a championship with a game-winning shot. You had Tony Kukoc. You had Dennis Rodman, obviously. Bill Winnington was another guy. I mean, they sprinkled in these players, and I think the underlying factor is with these teams we talk about is that you have to draft well. You got to have core guys. But if you can go out in free agency and find the right fit, you got a chance to win.
And it doesn't always work. You look at what the Eagles did when they put together their dream team with Vince Young and Nnamdi Asomugha and a bunch of free agents, and Vince Young called it a dream team, and they wound up being an epic failure. And it's the best executives that are able to turn franchises around. And in most cases here, what we're talking about is franchises that have not had success that in a singular offseason are able to turn things around.
This is interesting, too. The 636 says the Dodgers' last offseason was pretty good.
It was great.
It was great. But how many teams have that flexibility to say we're going to spend $300 million on Yamamoto, $700 million on Ohtani, and then have this core? But to their credit, they've drafted well, especially pitching-wise. You keep Kershaw for all these years. He's expected to come back. They went and traded for Mookie Betts. I mean, they did a lot of things, man, that make this thing work. Yes, are they spending a lot of money? For sure. But are they able to develop some of these players to come up and be contributors? Yes, they do. I keep going back to having a core of a draft, but then in this era of free agency, being able to sprinkle in not just play the right guys. You got to have the right guys that fit the system that you play.
And it goes to show that even though the Cardinals only won 71 games last year, it could have been done. It can still be done. It's done in a different way than it was in 2000. I don't know that Walt Jocketty's approach, he was a fantastic general manager for his time.
It cannot work now.
I don't think so.
You give up young players to bring in stars. And those guys, I mean, Roland was a Hall of Fame and is a Hall of Fame player. Jimmy Edmonds should be in the Hall of Fame. The thing is, they could afford, to an extent, to keep the guys. Now, if those players hit free agency, I don't think there's any way they can keep all those guys.
And another part of that, Danny, is I don't think in this day and age players will sacrifice. Jim Edmonds, well, let's start with McGuire.
That's a great point, too.
McGuire sacrificed a lot of money. He got $28 million over 4 years from the Cardinals. He probably could have gotten $10 million a year. Edmonds stays here for 57 when he probably could have gotten 80 or 90 or 100. Remember, Scott Rowland turned down $140 million from the Phillies and signed a $90 million contract with the Cardinals. I remember Peter Gammon saying they have a $120 million team but an $80 million payroll because Andy Bennis came back. He wanted to be in St. Louis. Players would play here for less money. That's not happening anymore. And it's not indigenous to the Cardinals. It's just the way society has gone. So there's a couple of things at play. Number one, you have players that aren't willing to give a hometown discount and agents. And you have a situation with other teams, for example, Philadelphia now, they couldn't keep Scott Rowland because even at that time, Philly wasn't making enough money. Revenue sharing is in place now. So teams like Pittsburgh, they can go out and sign a Reynolds. We talked about this the other day. Sign a Brian Reynolds. They'll be able to sign O'Neal Cruz. The Angels were not a big money team. They couldn't afford to sign Jim Edmonds at that point. So revenue sharing has changed baseball, too, so it's more difficult to do what Walt did.
I think about play. You just made me think of this, and the only guy that comes to mind for me, and I know there's others, but that are willing to take less money to stay in a spot. Clayton Kershaw has done that. Now, he's made a lot of money, and I guess you have to say to the player is happiness over the cash. Are you truly happy? And I think part of it is that they've already made their money. They probably have made more money in their lives than they ever thought they were going to make. And then you stay just because I'm happy to be here. I can't really think off the top of my head players that have taken less just to stay where they're at. Not many.
It doesn't happen very often. Waino might have for one or 2 years.
Yep. But then he got paid on the back end when they thought he was done.
Yeah, right. He did. I don't think Yachty ever took any less than he would have gotten on the open market, right?
Yeah.
It used to be a staple of the Cardinals. Yeah, well, who the one guy that it's happening with now is Patrick Mahomes.
Yes.
Patrick Mahomes, I think there's 6 quarterbacks now with the signing of Trevor Lawrence yesterday that are making more than $50 million a year, and Mahomes isn't one of them.
How about Trevor Lawrence, by signing, gets a bonus of $120 million guaranteed, and I think the total contract is 5 years, $285. Does that sound right?
That's $275.
$275. Wow.
Yeah,
that's incredible. That's incredible.
$55 million a year, tied with Joe Burrow for the highest AAV in football. The 5 highest AAVs: Lawrence and Burrow at 55, Jared Goff at 53, Justin Herbert at 52, Lamar Jackson at 52. What do those guys have in common besides having salaries over $50 million a year? None of them have a Super Bowl ring.
Isn't that something? And I would assume if you're Kansas City, you got to up the ante now with Mahomes,
And
don't
he
you?
knows it, but he wants to be able to keep guys like Chris Jones around. He knows that he's got more money than he can ever spend. He's getting the endorsement money, and he wants to keep people like Kelsey and Jones around.
They got their rings last night. Did you see the ring?
Yeah, pretty nice.
Now they have it on the top of the ring where it flips open. And it could be a stadium or it could be another diamond, but they flip the thing open on top of the ring. I mean, it is gaudy. It goes from the knuckle back to the finger, and I don't know how you could possibly wear it, but that's the rings that they're getting now. They're awesome.
They're ostentatious and awesome. Exactly. Coming up, our last rock and roll of this week here on the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Attention business owners, CEOs, and CFOs. You don't want to miss this. NetSuite by Oracle is hosting a day-long event on Thursday, June 27th at Union Station, and they're calling it Business Grows Here, and it's set up to help you grow your business. Spend the day learning from more than half a dozen speakers on stage, sharing their wisdom and their insights, including Jamie Siminoff, the founder of Ring Video Doorbell. Every speaker you'll hear will leave you with actionable strategies and tips that you can immediately apply to your business. Take all the notes you want and meet people that can change the way you look at growing your business today. Apply to attend the business event of the year. NetSuite's Business Grows Here happens Thursday, June 27th at the Union Station Hotel. It'll be a day well spent. It's free to attend if you qualify, and all you need to do is apply today. To find out if you do apply, well, seats are still available. Go online to netsuite.com/Missouri. That's netsuite.com/Missouri. June 27th at the Union Station Hotel. Business Grows Here.
Rock! And roll.
Let's rock. Let's rock today.
One of the sad things is going to the zoo and going to the leopard part of big cat country and yelling for the leopard and then finding out that it's deaf.
I can't say that we have something coming up because it's the final segment.
101 ESPN has your chance to score a pair of tickets to see Def Leppard.
Bad, man.
Def Leppard and Journey with Cheap Trick on July 6th at Busch Stadium.
Monday it'll be Randy and BK, and then I'll be back Tuesday. I think Brooke returns Wednesday.
Hey, you can find all of the ticket details you need and a bonus chance to register to win free tickets to see Def Leppard and Journey and Cheap Trick. You can find those chances at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 mobile app. But tickets are on sale now, or you can just text us right now and answer the trivia question, 314-399-9646, 314-399-YO-HO, to win free tickets to the show.
Matthew, I think, was yawning during that.
I was, yes.
Did you laugh during my joke?
I didn't laugh during the joke, no, sorry.
Usually, you bounce it off of Matthews. Oh, Randy, you're the greatest. I love it. Not here.
I have to have us. I have to. There's still a line. Like, there's still a line.
Okay, text in 314-399-9646, 314-399-YO-HO. If you thought it was funny, the Def Leppard joke.
Also, you can beat Texter 30 and answer this question correctly to win the tickets.
What's the question?
Who was the first ever Blues coach to win the Jack Adams?
Oh, okay, good one. I like that.
Don't say it, Danny.
All right, I'm not going to say it.
I think I know. I think
You should. You were paying attention today.
No, yeah. If I was paying attention to the fight?
Yes, you would have gotten it.
314 says, ha, 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 poor Danny. We have a yo-no.
Yo-no.
Yo-no is in there.
You fun suckers. Get out of here, God. Worst. You know what? I'm gonna make Danny mad here.
So
go ahead.
So here's the thing. Here's what I'm talking about. Because, like, many times if you, like, talk to an animal at the zoo, they'll turn their head and look at you. But when you go to the leopard, it just stands there. It doesn't look at you when you talk to it. So therefore,
somehow
you just have to assume you have to assume it's a deaf leopard.
Somehow I don't have the worst Def Leppard joke this week, and that's saying something, Randy. That's impressive. Like, I don't know how.
Okay. That's fair.
Hey,
that's impressive.
Did this coach score 5 goals one night?
Which?
The one that won the
backhand
No,
play.
that was Wayne.
I don't. I think he might have. I don't. I'm not sure about 5. I'm sure he did because he scored a few in one game
in Philly.
So why are you doing this?
Could be.
Am I right in that?
Maybe
hey, Danny Mac, according to baseball. Hey, Danny Mac,
What
according
am I saying? That's right. It was 6.
Thanks, Randy. According to Baseball Savant, there have been 777 batted balls at Busch Stadium this year from right-handed hitters, and only 22 of them have gone for homers.
Wow.
That's the fewest in the league. I mean, really only Albert Pujols is ever able to consistently hit homers from the right-handed spot in Busch Stadium. So should they move the fences in, Danny Mac?
No.
Why not just juice the ball? Isn't it a lot easier to just juice the ball?
How about build the team for the ballpark?
Wait, what?
Yeah. Oh,
so
now
go
we're talking.
I only
either
play
all
here half the time. What are you
pitching,
talking about?
You know, you could do that. Whitey built a team for Busch Stadium and the speed of the turf. Build a team for the ballpark.
Wonder if AstroTurf is still made.
I don't know. I remember being in Montreal, and it was like walking on concrete. I don't know how Vladimir Guerrero did it. I mean, he had a... I'm not saying that. I just walked into it. How long did he have that? A week back.
About a week back.
I walked right into it.
It happens on this show now and then.
What now here's the thing though. Juiced balls might get more people into the stands, but moving the fences in allows me to add to the stands, Randy Karraker. How about that factor?
Oh, that's something that we have to keep in mind.
Money.
So we get so there's more red seats to see during day games.
I think that what eventually could happen, and I may be wrong about this, and I don't know if you guys would agree, but lower section, parts of a lower bowl, making those, and I'm talking about down the right and left field line, not all the way out past the foul pole. I'm talking within that, towards home plate, that you make some of those party areas. So take out a section of seats and just make it a party area.
I'm fine with that.
It's a social event anyway.
It has become.
You know,
and people want to stand, right? People want to congregate.
You know, you go over there and, you know, do your thing. And
you got rid of the best party area and made it more of a VIP area for this season with the bow tie bar.
Oh, I thought the best party area was the Busch or the Budweiser Terrace.
It was good, but I would argue that bow tie bar was. I mean, if you scheduled out your day right.
Isn't the 703 club there too?
It is, but it's a completely different setup when it comes to there's no $5 beers, you know, at any point at the 703 club like there was at Bowtie Bar, and that was like you could plan out your day, and it was a nice way to get nice way just to have a good afternoon or a good night without having to spend $80. It would cost you like $30.
Okay.
And so I think having more areas like that where because I think despite the fact that you can go online an hour before most games and get a $5 ticket. The overarching complaints we still get from a lot of fans is about the over umbrella spend of the day, the food, the drinks, and so on and so forth. So having areas like that not only there's party areas but are affordable party areas, I think that I knew a lot of friends my age in their early 30s who only went to games last year because they had bow tie, because they were going to be in the bow tie bar, and they knew that it was going to be a much more economical time out than not only just a different Cardinals game but anything else really in St. Louis that night.
That's something for the Cardinals to keep in mind. Absolutely.
Champions Club is awesome.
Yes, that's
Champions Club is great. All inclusive. I like that. I think that's pretty cool.
And 703 is fantastic.
I'm thinking just like a section, take it out, seats are gone, and it's outdoors. It's the outdoor portion of down the left field line or down the right field line, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
I kind of like that idea. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah. So, Dan, you get to play golf with your kids all the time. I don't get to play golf with my kids. Tomorrow, my kids are taking me to play golf.
Yay!
That's awesome.
That'll be fun. That'll be my little Father's Day present.
They don't like playing with me anymore.
Why?
They just don't.
Them back?
You get mad at them for beating you?
No, they beat the hell out of me. And I'm like, what's your problem? And they're like, you're too slow.
Oh, man.
I'm like, I'm not too slow.
Uncalled for.
I play fast. That's my one rule. You got to play fast.
You got to play fast. Yeah, I'm with you.
Don't stand over the ball. Don't be looking at the putt from every single way. Go look for a ball if it's lost. Give it a couple of minutes, then drop a ball. It's not that we're not playing the U.S. Open.
Exactly.
Drop a ball.
Right.
I play fast.
So happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. We know that you're listening, and we do appreciate what you do for your kids and for us and for the community. It's great to have you with us every single weekday morning here on 101 ESPN.
Happy Father's Day, my man.
Happy Father's Day to you, Daniel, and to you, Matthew, and to your dad.
Happy Father's Day to you guys.
Thank you.
And if you don't have any plans for the weekend, head on over to the zoo. It's free. And check out the
leopard.
And it doesn't hear, so it's
Def Leppard.
There we go.
Struggles with hearing. Leopard.
Kill me.
You really do.
It's pretty funny. We thank you for tuning in, texting in, and being a part of our show. For all of us until Monday morning at 7, don't just have a great Father's Day weekend. Have an American Father's Day weekend.